Everybody, welcome to FMA Discussion. This is episode 372, and tonight is its theme episode. I'm Arnis, and tonight we're going to be covering the decades, which will be the 70s, 80s, and 90s, what changed throughout those decades with Arnis and Remy Presses, and Datu Tim Hartman uh, was kind enough to join us tonight, and he's going to be speaking on that through questions. If you have questions, please put them in the comment section. I will get to them. And as always, if you're watching, tell us where you're watching from and smash that like button. And without further ado, Datu himself. Hey, how are you?
Hey, feel like I just saw you recently.
Yeah, right, exactly. We got Raymond, GM Ray. I got to message you about that post on KI, and she's always a bad teacher. Oh, Jesus, but yeah, GM Ray, unbelievable.
Oh, I saw that post.
Yeah, not currently what's going on with KI present status. That's not more important. I mean, but let's. It just makes me ill. And we got Gregory from Ontario. Yeah, GM Ray. I'm sure you found it entertaining. And Eric O'Brien, the one and only from Florida, who I'll be seeing Friday, picking me up at the airport around 1:30. Don't forget, Eric.
That's cool. I left Florida, and now you're going there.
Yeah, and it's so funny is our January has been really, really mild here and what's interesting is Friday night we are going to get single digits, perhaps below zero with the wind chill, and I'm going to be in Florida. I am going to feel bad for folks here though. So yeah, but anyway, I guess it'll be bittersweet. And we got Frank and all that. So folks, if you didn't catch the intro, we're going to be talking on the decades of modern East and the changes that went throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And so just for the folks who are watching who may not know Datu, when did you officially start? What year?
It should have been 1985. I was 19 years old, 2 years out of high school, and then a year later, I started teaching. I got on as an instructor apprenticeship program, so I've been teaching the art since, whether as a primary instructor or a secondary instructor, since 1986.
Wow! And so, when you were teaching back there in '86, were you under the umbrella of somebody else in another school?
So I started with John Bryant. Now there was. And we've talked on several shows before, there was three dedicated modernist academies that we know.
I remember you're saying that, which
in
is
the United
incredible.
States. Rocky Pass was the first one. I'm not sure what name he had for it. And if he's watching, we'd love to hear what the name was, Rocky, because that's one bit I got. Yeah. Then there was the Filipino Karate Academy where I started, and that was headed up by John Bryant. Gotcha. And then Horizon Martial Arts, which is my school, and it's still going. And actually, I'm in the back room right now. There's a fitness kickboxing class going on up front. My wife's running that. So I went away to the first camp, and pretty much when you went to the camp, you came out. If you had like intermediate belt, you came out as a basic instructor. So what a basic instructor really meant was training group leader, but Remy didn't have that nomenclature. I mean, no one had that nomenclature back then.
86, so, yeah.
Right. But and then, and to put it in context, and people say, well, come on, you went to your first camp. The Gracies, when they first, because I saw all the same stuff, they did the same thing Remy did. You went to a training camp for a weekend, came out a blue belt, and started a training group.
The Hoist and Horian, they were doing that all over the States.
But now, over years, and same with Remy. Remy did it first. His standard was here to get people out there. And the difference is, the same thing is, a lot of people forget, most of the people that would go to these camps were black belts in other systems. So, as time went on, he raised the standard. So he eventually put in So I'd started an apprenticeship program, and a lot of times when he saw these things, he would adapt that nomenclature. So there was originally a basic instructor and advanced instructor, and that was it. Well, there's a third certificate, participant. You'd get a participant if you were low enough level. Basic instructor, advanced instructor. Advanced instructor was brown belt.
Okay.
The instructor thing he really didn't put into it really had no it didn't tie into rank very much. Like black belt superseded instructor.
Okay.
So what would happen is you would what he eventually started putting in is he started putting an apprentice instructor on board with that. I'm sharing your thing to my page so people can go directly to my Facebook page. So now we can watch it in one more platform. Okay, good. So eventually it went to participant, apprentice, basic instructor, advanced instructor.
Okay.
But once again, black belt superseded all that.
Superseded. Okay, that nomenclature.
Yeah,
so
but that was the only 4 certificates out there for. Well, there's only 3 instructor certificates, and that was apprentice instructor, which was the last one added, basic instructor, advanced. I've heard people talk about that there's 10 levels instructor, and that's not accurate.
You haven't seen it. Okay, so since you were, 86, what can you recollect, or what do you know of far as the 70s decade? I know he went out west first.
Well, I know how he came over here.
Okay.
So he was a goodwill ambassador for the Philippines with diplomatic papers. So the Philippine government literally sent him around the world teaching their martial culture. So he was revolutionary, and at the time there was really, he was the guy in the Philippines, and a lot of these guys that end up teaching and having their own systems that got their own notoriety were actually his students at one time. I'm just looking, our picture went off on my other screen here, so I don't know what's going on over there. On your page. I don't know if it's me or you. I'm going to refresh to see if something happened here.
Everything seems okay on this end.
Okay, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's back up. It may have been a connection issue on my side. You're all good. Good, thanks. Oh, and then Maria's there. Okay, good. So, so I got distracted. Get me back on point, my man. Whoa.
You were speaking on how he was basically
how he came over. So he was a goodwill ambassador for the Philippines with diplomatic. He had 2 passports, a personal as well as a government issued or a diplomatic passport. So he went on one of his tours, and on the second tour, and I don't recall the gentleman's name, but there was a general that liked what he was doing, his organization and stuff, and took it over while he was gone.
Okay.
He came back and started bipping off, and he got a phone call saying, "Keep your mouth shut, or you're going to end up in said river," which is like being buried in a Yankee Stadium. So he reached out to a general. Okay, here we go. David's got it.
General Fabian Ver.
Okay. Now, and David, maybe you can help me on this, because David was a very close friend with Roland Dantes. The rumor that I heard secondhand, not from Remy. Now, Roland Dantes, who was Mr. Philippines and was all this other stuff, allegedly was sent to take out Remy. He was allegedly put a hit out on Remy. Now, I don't think I heard it from an American. I didn't hear it from any of the Filipinos. So, David, if you could help us with that would be great, because I'm always looking for more information. So, Roland was sent after, and I don't think they realized that Roland Dantes was Remy's student.
Okay. Well, he's saying yes. So
okay. So Remy went to see somebody in the government that he knew, and he goes, "You still got, he goes, your one passport's been frozen. Do you have your other one?" He goes, "Yes." He goes, "Okay." So Remy hopped on a plane and hightailed it out to the United States. And actually, he got a little crazy. So he's on the plane. Soldiers came on board, and he's all sweating and stuff. They walk up to him and kept going and grabbed the guy behind him and yanked him off the plane.
Oh.
He takes off. When he gets in the air, he starts going, "Woo! We got away!" And then the stewardess is like, "Sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down." And then he moved in with family in San Francisco, the Bay Area.
San Francisco is where he went to. Okay.
Yes.
Now we got a question here.
Okay.
From George. Was it Arnis prior to coming to the U.S.?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
All right. So the okay, hold on. Okay, I'm not leaving. I'm just grabbing a book.
He is not leaving.
I should have did this ahead of time. Okay. I don't have the book that I wanted. Okay. This was the one that was done in the Philippines. This is a newer version, a later edition.
Okay.
So that's Remy right there. So it was a clear photo initially. Okay. Modern Arnis stick fighting. This is the pink book we talk about. So there's 3 books that the Americans talk about. There was the white book, which was the practical art of Eskrima.
All right.
There's the pink book, which there's multiple color books. It's all the same book, but the green blue book version is all in Tagalog, which I happen to have both. Actually, Tuhan Bobby Ladra just gave me his personal copy signed by Remy.
Wow.
So I'm actually looking. I'm looking for the caretakers of the Remy Prace's artifacts that I'm collecting. Right now. Let me see. What do we have for here? Roland was called into the head police Philippines intelligence. Was told Remy was to be eliminated.
Pretty heavy stuff, man.
Airport escorted him onto the plane. Yeah. Okay. So that's why I like doing these shows, because that's a piece of the thing I didn't have.
Yeah, and Dave's got just so much information. I can't wait till you can go to show him.
There was a white Guru Ray. There was a white book before this, The Practical Art of Eskrima. Just so you know. So there's 3 books. There's the yellow book, which is the one that O'Hara did. O'Hara Publications.
So the yellow book was the first book?
That's the 3rd book. White,
yellow,
pink, yellow.
Oh, okay.
Well, that one I see right here. Hold on.
Oh. Sounds like he's getting the yellow book.
Okay. All right. So fortunately, I'm in my office. I can run around. I didn't know we were going to talk about the books, otherwise I would have had them.
No. The reason why we got on the books was because
Practical Art of Eskrima. That was the first book.
That was the first book. Okay.
Because Remy called the art of Eskrima. It was Eskrima.
Yeah. Okay. Then what book do I have? What book is this then?
That's the pink book. That's what the pink book originally looked at. So if you bring that to the screen so the guys can see.
Sure.
You've got the U.S. edition. It's the same book. They just put a different cover on it. That is Roland Datu. So the guy, if you're watching the screen, everybody, the guy underneath stick fighting, which would be to the right of the book, that's Roland Dantes. The guy on the left is Remy Praces, and that's in Madison Square Garden. That's after Remy came to the States.
Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, Remy performed in Madison Square Garden. That blue is Carrera. And then the last book he produced, which is it's this book. This is by O'Hara Publications.
The yellow book.
So it is the U.S. edition to this. The difference about this one, this actually has a section. Now, this is the smaller version. The one that you have should it should have tournament rules in there. So I've actually got an argument saying that Remy didn't like tournaments.
Hey, here's an interesting tidbit right here from Maria.
Marco's cousin, David. Okay, there we go. Boom, boom, boom. So that's interesting. But if you'll see that there's a whole series of tournament rules. The book that you have, it's a bigger book. There should be articles in the back showing all of the like you should see like newspaper clippings and stuff like that.
Newspaper clippings at the end.
somewhere in there. It should be
I'm
like,
seeing, I am. Okay. I
yeah,
am
yeah.
seeing.
So Remy was, I mean, he was, I think he taught the military as well in there. I think there's photos of that.
Yeah.
So, when I talk about, so what Remy blew up Arnis, because what he did was karate was huge in the Philippines. And what he said was, what do we have? Okay, it's crazy. After World War II, fighting the Japanese system becomes more popular than their own indigenous system.
Which is terrible.
But I understand why, because back then there was no training equipment and you smashed each other during training and you couldn't work. But karate, you could do katas all day long.
Yeah.
It was organized. They had the uniform. So Remy looked at it. So what does karate have that we don't have? Uniforms. So he wear the white top and the red pants. He goes, belt system. So he did his own belt. And then they did katas. So then he said, wait for it, modern Arnis, a.k.a. Filipino karate. And that was the marketing gimmick he got to pull all the Filipinos back in to start doing it. So
clever.
So he started doing uniforms and belts, and other people like Dos Pares saw it was working and adapted it to themselves.
Jeez.
There we go. But no, that was it. Exactly. That was the thing. That when you look at the Balliqua Club,
they all do that weapon stuff.
Well, listen. Remember when boxing was looked down on the state? It's for ruffians.
When MMA initially was looked down upon.
Right. Look at it now. It's a trendy thing. Yeah. So, because all you saw was people fighting in the streets. You didn't see anything.
Yeah. So going to the 70s, what can you tell us far as, I guess, what was taught? I mean, obviously he lands in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. He starts to teach. He's getting into the schools.
Now, he didn't teach straight away, by the way. He was sitting.
No, I know.
He had a lot of state of depression and stuff. Yeah. Until his family said, get off your ass. You're a grandmaster. Start doing what you do. And he did.
Yeah. Thank God for them. Yeah. So I guess as far as early curriculum per se, 70s, what can you tell us? Like, what was going on in the 70s with him as far as his methodology, what he brought to the traditional schools and that?
So I've heard, we have to remember that Remy would teach to the crowd. Like an entertainer, you play to the crowd. So he had also, like many Filipino martial artists, also did karate. What I've been told is they did that to get their credentials because they didn't look at Arnis being something you could be a master in, so you get a master's degree.
So they would get a master. Wow.
So you'd be a master in martial arts and then cross it over here.
That makes sense.
He was teaching in the school systems and then he was teaching in traditional schools when he came over here. So it was very upright, very karate-esque because he was teaching it as, wait for it, the art within your art.
I never heard that.
Never heard that. There we go. We've talked about that a whole bunch of times. And art within your art. So if they were more karate-esque, he taught them harder. Think about like 1, 2, 3, inward block, grab, downward block. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 1, whoosh, and then just to put the grab in there. So to make it look more like what they were doing, he would have a harder edge on it. If he was with the Fu people, there would be a softer edge on it.
It's maybe more circular, not as cut angle. Okay. All right. So, okay.
Because like Abon Bayet did a video, talked about the difference between Arnis in the 70s and the 90s. He goes, and he said, Remy was teaching in the school systems. So of course you had to be a lot more regimented, and competing with karate in the Philippines, it would be a harder system.
No, it totally makes sense to get it, right, to get some momentum as far as popularity and enrollment.
Well, even the Kun Tao that I do with the W, not the O, they like competing in tournaments, so they put a harder edge on their forms. The forms I do should be softer, but because you're going to compete, there's harder edges because really, Shotokan was one of the big things they competed against. And, when it comes to an open tournament, it's very hard to beat good good Shotokan katas. They're amazing. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about the substance. We're talking about the execution and the dynamic, the presentation.
No, the performance, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Remy had that harder edge initially, and then as he got more diverse students, he had a more diverse expression.
So is it fair to say then in the 70s? So first of all, what year was it, mid 70s? Like when he got out there, started teaching?
He got out here about 74, 75, right around there.
So let's say maybe 76 he was teaching thereabouts.
Yeah. I mean, because he had met. I mean, I saw good footage of him and Bruce Jutnik from 76, 77 era. And at that time, he was all NorCal.
So he was outside of San Fran. He was
I mean, that's where his family was. So like Sacramento, which is about an hour north. That's where Bruce Jutnik was, and so he would do Northern Cal. And then he started branching out. Like he went to visit family members all over the place. I mean, I'm still meeting family members, or family members that are like, well, we were family. Really? No. Okay, I get you. It's the Filipino family versus okay, But I get stories like from early or mid 70s. He was up in Salem, Massachusetts. Mike Williams and I had talked a whole bunch of stories. I met a whole bunch of people there.
Mike, yeah.
So he started traveling, doing seminars. But it really didn't blow up until he did his first camp, which was 1983 in West Virginia.
Okay, so no camps in the 70s, pretty much developing in North Cal.
Yep.
And then 80s is so.
Yeah, I mean, he was going he got out to Chicago and Detroit and all these other places. I mean, he was going out, but he didn't have the presence that we knew at the end.
He didn't have, so in other words, he didn't have affiliations. He was visiting, but like they weren't like sub schools.
Right. No. It was a recruiting mission. So he'd go hang with family, and while he was doing that, he was planting the seeds.
Okay, so 80s come around. He's getting momentum. So did the curriculum, what he had, like far as in the 70s, where he was kind of keeping it very rigid, very karate-like, trying to blend in with their forms and their one-step sparring, what have you. We swing into the 80s. It sounds like he's doing North Cal, but other areas.
Yeah.
What did anything change as far as the curriculum then?
Okay, so it started. I mean, the thing here is it was constantly expanding.
Okay.
And evolving. So I got to see some of the changes firsthand. So we do a disarm where you strip it across your belly. Hook comes in, you deflect and hook over top. But at one time, it was deflect, grab, puño the wrist. And then it became forearm the wrist. Okay. And then he did it. Okay, so the problem here is at the time, and for those who are listening, listen to what I'm saying. At the time, it was a male-dominated community.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
When I got involved, Karate Kid had hit. He's getting men, women, and children.
83 Karate Kid. Okay.
Right. So that paradigm had to start changing. Okay, because kids started showing, and with kids come moms, and genetically speaking, on average, most men are bigger than women. Okay. And at that era, women weren't laborers. We're talking the 60s and 70s. They weren't like blue collar laborers. They were more in the service industry and stuff like that, or secretarial.
Or stay at home moms, right? When you could afford to do that.
That's when you could. So doing a hard forearm block to dislodge a stick, it was too much, especially once again, children, and you wanted to teach a child. I mean, a child doesn't want to do it if it hurts. So Remy started, he started doing more leveraging maneuvers to make things come out easier and depend less on the attributes that he had. And, you know, the thing here is, like many instructors, they do things that work for them. And then when,
But
I mean,
more or less the student,
yeah,
the student base.
So
okay.
I don't know of anyone who's crossed hands more with people than Remy Praces. When you think of the quantity of seminars he taught.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, like if he was doing 50 something a year or whatever.
Well, and who knows, because like when he would stay in Buffalo for 2 weeks,
yeah,
he would do 5 to 8 seminars during that 2-week period.
Yeah, he touched a lot of hands.
You know,
yeah.
So, you know, he probably realized very quickly from all that experience, not everyone has the same strength. So he started adapting to the people that were in front of him.
No, I could definitely understand that. So for instance, for your example, what was basically coming down that hard low was now turning into more levers as far as disarming. Okay.
I saw a lot less brutality. Oh no, I saw techniques that weren't relied on. They didn't have to rely on brutality. They started working on finesse and leverage.
So leverage was taking over pain compliance.
Yeah. It still was there because you're like, oh, you just pop them. I'm like, yeah, okay, good.
Okay.
You know, and like I said, he could do it. We all knew he could do it. And with all the seminars he was doing, how many people were taking shots at him to see if his goods were any, you know, if he had the goods?
Yeah. Yeah, so, I'm sure there's people indirectly or directly challenging him.
So it's like, well, okay, you can do it, but can your people do it? And then he started working on that.
So in addition to the disarms, I mean, we're again with that revolution of Karate Kid and everybody wants to go do karate. And so while they're joining these schools, so around that time, if you know, like far as his spreading, was it obviously other parts of California, the Northwest?
So so unfortunately, he ended up leaving the West Coast.
Okay.
He went where the business was at. When he did the 83 camp, it blew up. That's the camp that opened the doors for Buffalo. So a guy named Don Zangi, he was the first person to bring modern Arnis to Buffalo. Okay. He went down to that camp and then brought Remy up. And when he brought Remy up, there ended up being, at the end, a total of 11 different modern Arnis programs.
You were telling me that.
In a small town like Buffalo, per capita, there was not, I don't know of any major city that had more concentration, more people per capita doing modern Arnis.
That's amazing. Just the fact that you had 11 schools that were teaching FMA back in the, I mean, that's amazing.
So we had 34 modern Arnis black belts in Buffalo.
That's wow. You know, and this is circa 80s?
80s, yeah. I mean, it through the 80s. I mean, at the end, I end up being, I hate saying it, I'm the last man standing. People moved, people retired, and we lost somebody, you know, due to health complications. You know, a good friend of mine, a Dan Carr, and you know, he was a misunderstood person. I got along with him great. There was times we butted heads because that's what friends do. That's what family does. But at the end of the day, you know, between people passing away, moving, retiring.
Yeah, true. I mean, just people moving, relocating jobs, what have you.
Oh, here's a big one. Having kids.
That too will change dynamics. Yeah.
And like I said, there was only one dedicated. Okay, there was only one dedicated school at a time in Buffalo. So Don Zangi did Fighting Back Institute. It was a Arnis Balintawak hybrid. John Bryant came from that school, split off, and did Arnis, modern Arnis only.
Only, okay. All right.
So at that time, he became a direct student of Remy. And then I came underneath that. So like when people ask me like what generation, I go, I became a first gen with Remy, but I look at myself first generation C. Don Zangi brought it back and taught John Bryant. Even though John, and I'm a student of John's initially, we all ended up being first generation students of Remy, but that's not the way it started. Now,
gotcha.
87, so I was with John for 2 years, and then I had left the school, and Remy brought me on as a personal student at that point.
Okay.
So, but But the thing here is still, and I was teaching part time, but the thing here is that camp is what brought Modern Arnis to Buffalo, and did the same thing to Philadelphia, did the same thing other places.
So that camp really sparked far. Is it fair to say that kind of erupted the East Coast growth?
That was it. That was ground zero. Now, the funny thing is, there's not a lot of Modern Arnis down there, but it was the people that went there from other parts of the country. So it didn't matter where it happened.
I was gonna say, how did not to digress, because I want to stick on what happened here in the 80s and the evolution and all that, but how did that come to be? Like, how did he get? I mean, West Virginia, right? West Virginia, right?
Well, first of all, there was stop it. These are my readers, you bastard. I got different readers for home.
That guy is funny, man.
They're not Buddy Holly glasses.
Oh my God, that is.
He's just jealous of my silver mane here. So
I didn't even know. Man.
And then Maria's like LOL there. Well, I've got that pizza dude and Renee, but Renee wasn't on the show last night, so you get Renee. So it's all
that pizza guy.
He's stalking me. So back then, that's when people were looking at Black Belt magazine for things to do.
So who hosted him though?
Like, I have no clue. I do know.
I'm just curious, like how does
there is a Black Belt magazine that has an article about that camp, and I tried to get it from a friend of mine. He wouldn't give it to me.
Did he make you a photocopy?
This is back in the 80s when we didn't,
there was okay.
Yeah, it's just like, I was young, so what the hell did I know? But the camp was in 83, so sometime in 83, Black Belt did an article, or someone submitted an article on that camp.
On a camp.
So if someone knows when that is, I would love it. If someone has one and they're willing to part, I would love.
Maybe when I do the special on the camps, maybe it'll come out then. I'm just kidding. All right. So the camp is 83.
Yeah.
So, all right.
That was the defining moment of our art.
That camp right there, because obviously that kicked off other camps.
Because that was the training opportunity. Now the other one was the cover of the book. Remy went to Madison Square Garden. I think it was Aaron Banks was hosting this big martial art extravaganza. Remy was waiting outside to get his time to audition, and he's with his cousin who's like late for work. And Remy and finally Remy goes, "This is bullshit." That was his thing, and he grabs his cousin. I go, "Remy, I gotta go to work." He goes, "We're going in," and he does this demo, boom, 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 and I think he had spring steel machetes. The sparks are going all over the place, and it's like, "This is my audition," and Aaron's like, "All right, you're demoing." And then
you're in.
And then that's where that cover comes from. And that is what sparked everything.
What year was that? Just about.
I'd say probably still? 80, maybe 79.
Oh, okay. So you had that going on in New York, and then you had the camp in 83. I don't know if you know if there's any instructors in New Jersey for Joseph Bates. I'm trying to think myself. There's got to be somebody in New Jersey. I just don't. Anybody here knows?
If you're willing to go to Delaware, I know people down there.
Okay.
Jersey. Well, hey, listen, if you do it and you're interested, I'd be more than happy to hook you up in our affiliate program, because we're looking to get as many people involved with the art as possible.
For a few good men.
But
here's somebody you know.
Oh, he's a goober.
Oh my God, Craig, don't take that from me.
Right, Craig is our top Canadian.
So, okay, so you got the showing in Madison Square Garden in about 80. You got the camp in 83. What did you see? Any other as far as changes and development, as far as its techniques, curriculum per se?
Oh my God!
80. Oh, okay.
So it was a constant evolution. So I got to see, and Remy did themes. That's what a lot of people didn't understand. is Remy was teaching rotating curriculum before rotating curriculum existed.
No, Dean was a junior in high school, Renee. Dean was not teaching anything.
He's okay. He's okay. So, you know, like I said, Remy would work on different themes. So one theme, okay. Everything was, we would go with the flow. That was the big thing.
But I guess what I'm asking is because this is growing now. Obviously, after the camp, he's getting into East Coast schools.
Yeah.
I mean, so did he have to basically increase the volume of techniques or forms? Or
no, because most people didn't dedicate themselves to the art.
So it was supplementary that, hey, the last 15 minutes, we're going to swing some sticks around.
Okay, so I saw a post the other day, maybe it was today, that someone was complaining about someone who's doing a very popular art for 20 years, and then they went to fight, and they talked about sparring, and the person backed down, and like, they're shit. I'm like, if they were talking about modern Arnis, they may or may not have. You talk about modern Arnis, you got to remember back to at the end of the day, Remy was not trying to build discriminators. He was trying to make martial artists better self-defense practitioners by introducing Filipino concepts to their defensive tactics.
Gotcha. Yeah, he wasn't making, okay.
No,
okay.
So I'm one of a handful of people, leaders, that were truly Filipino martial artists. Like the masters of Tappy Tappy, I don't consider them Filipino martial artists. I think they're very good examples of what's blending an art with a pre-existing art, because they all have a diverse background. Chuck Goss is a Judo Tang Sudo guy. Kenny Smith is an Okinawan Ishinryu guy. Brian Zabolinski is a Kempo guy. And you watch their arts and you can see the marriage between those. You see the synthesis, but they don't represent what Remy taught. Okay, you take blue, you take red, you put them together. What do you get? Purple. It's no longer blue or red.
Right.
They became purple. They weren't blue. Hey, and I think Dad can contest to that a little as well. Remy's major, he started to try to standardize things at the end to make his martial art expression as a standalone program. But
besides being complementary to an existing, gotcha. Okay.
So before he would say, if you were close in the ballpark, or you got it wrong, oh, you could do that, but do this. So instead of saying no, he would go, oh, you could do that too. And then, but I want you to do this instead. So then all of a sudden people think you could do that. And maybe it was a good innovation, but maybe it was plain old wrong. Because he was trying to give a positive emotional experience. And he was very good at getting repeat people to these seminars because they had a blast. They had a very feel-good time. But we didn't have an academy that was designated
for basically building ground up the entire modern Nice curriculum besides being an add-on per se.
Now, in 91, 92, I became the Can-Am director of the International Modern East Federation. So I started having he goes, Tim, Canada's yours. Because with the exchange rate and all the other stuff, it was just too much to afford him to go up there on a regular basis. But I live 10 minutes from the border, 15 at most. So I would go up and do
76.
Right. Thanks to Dave. That's why we keep him around.
Dave, a question for you, Dave. I'm just curious. Do you know how that came to be? Because it sounds like he was still on the West Coast then. All that. I'm curious if you know. Okay. So before 91, it sounds like as a whole that there was no full-time or guys working modern East separately. It was basically they were getting it through being part of an existing school, whether it be Kempo, Taekwondo, or all that. But there was nobody that was getting it in its entirety. Is that fair?
Okay, this is going to sound cocky when I say this. Prior to me coming on the scene, I don't know of anyone who had the same experience of starting in a dedicated modernist academy with
Which
no
was yours in Buffalo,
right.
your team.
No. John Bryant.
John Bryant, yeah.
So I joined the Filipino Karate Academy, and John had stripped away all the Kempo that he was learning.
So back then he was just teaching just pure minor Arnis.
He was doing okay when he opened up his school.
Yeah,
he was doing his, but now he also was doing Aikido at one time as well.
Okay.
So he went to Rochester, RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology. There was an Aikido program he was part of, and we did things back and forth between the groups. And there's a small circle element of modern Arnis, so it would definitely augment things, but they didn't move the same on their basic fundamental moving. So John was the first one. I don't know what Rocky did. Because I know Rocky was teaching a grappling program, kickboxing, and all this other stuff as well. But he had committed to the craft of modern. But I don't know the other elements that he was teaching, if they were in secondary, tertiary programs, or it was all part of the main program. I don't know.
Okay.
But he was the one that made that first big jump of doing modern. John Bryant was underneath Don Zangi, which was like a 50-50 blend. When he opened up his school, he took out the Kempo, but he did come up with that Kempo in there. So when I came in, I had nothing in me. So I came up without having any martial art experience besides backyard.
You were just being minor Arnis then.
My first martial art officially as a student, legitimate training, was modern Arnis. So okay. I get a little, I get touchy on this because I see things. I'm like, yeah, that's cross trainer versus thing. Now, I'm really Remy Pracis Arnis.
So like you didn't, so it wasn't secondary or tertiary to you as far as
that's all I did.
Okay.
And I had to deconstruct the forms and other things. Hey, Rocky, there we go.
Okay.
We'll ask Rocky.
Okay.
Hey, Rocky, what was the name of your school and what year did you run it? But I took the forms, the trapping, and everything. We would go to tournaments. I didn't learn material from other schools. I learned how to apply what I already had into other elements.
Okay, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
So 85, you start this, 86, you're help teaching and all this. The majority though, if I were to look at US, okay, yeah. The majority were getting it supplementary through a Kempo school, Taekwondo school, and all that. With the exception of John's school, you guys were 100% modern Arnis.
Yeah. So, so I would say at least 95% of Remy's students in the U.S. did this as a secondary or tertiary art.
So, regardless of the decade.
Regardless of the decade. I mean, okay. I mean, let me look here. Chad started in the Kempo school. So it was his Kempo instructor who started teaching him.
Okay.
I remember that from one of your shows.
Okay. Yeah, I think in Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken, or something. Okay.
Brian Zawolinsky, he was a student of Sifu Lee Lowry at a Kempo school. Hey, Tony.
Hey, who's this guy?
He's a troublemaker.
I'm telling you, you wait till April, Mr. I got business.
He's gonna put you in the foundation of a building he's working on.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to meet him. Sounds like a good guy. I'm gonna have to talk to that man.
Really, so, you guys were both at the symposium together.
We didn't know each other.
He probably had better taste.
Well, no, thank you. Nobody introduced us.
I'm sorry. My bad.
I blended it. Okay,
we're gonna blame Nathan on that one.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
See, there we go.
With everything. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
So I'll give credit to Don Zangi, Michael Bates, Michael Donovan. These are three schools that I saw that had pretty darn near a 50-50 blend of Arnis in proportion to their primary art.
Okay.
You know, they were the most versed group that I would see out there. Now, I'm not going to talk about quality because that's subjective. And I thought all the guys were solid. Don't get me wrong. Because I don't want to put them above somebody else out there, and I'm not trying to poo-poo anybody. But when it comes to doing the art, what I saw student-wise, they all had professional schools with the highest proportion, pretty darn near 50-50 modern with their primary art. And there wasn't secondary school. It was married.
So in other words, if I'm hearing you correctly and understanding this, in other words, okay, Black Belt Club. Okay, last 15 minutes, we're going to do. So this was, so some of these schools actually had it. It was fifth. I mean, like. Okay.
I cannot. So.
Michael Bates, this is a generalization.
Michael Bates in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Michael Donovan from Philadelphia, but moved up to London, Ontario.
All right.
And then Don Zangi, Buffalo, New York. Okay.
Pretty much had 50-50.
50-50. It wasn't like this is our primary and that's modern. It was this.
Gotcha.
Okay. I inherited some of Don's students. See you later. I would consult. I mean, Michael Bates had me in for seminars. Michael Donovan had me in for seminars. I was very pleased with how well versed they were with modern Arnis. So I wasn't doing, all right, let's do block, check, counter. I was taking it to the next level because of the work that they did before I got there.
They had the fundamentals. Yeah. Okay.
And in Buffalo, we trained, like I said, a lot of us got together because we were far enough away from each other, so we weren't competitive. We were frenemies where we all wanted to be the top guy, but we all wanted to work together to make us all the top guy.
All right, here's my next question. While this is going on the East Coast and all that, what about the West? Was that kind of just left high and dry, or were they continuing to do what they were doing?
They were. I felt bad for a lot of them. East Coast was greener pastures. Okay, so why do we all get along with each other in the FMA industry out here? Simple. We're not in each other's backyards.
Yeah, you look at California and that's a very good point.
They are okay for being the left coast and the all kumbaya feeling better. They are so petty out there and insecure. And I remember having Michael Harone out here several times. And the one time he came out, and we had these Wednesday night meetings. So a bunch of martial artists would go to different bars for food and drink afterwards. And we had karate, jiu-jitsu, Arnis, taekwondo, and everyone getting together and having a good old time. And I brought Michael to it. It was when we were doing one of our tours. And he's like, this would never happen in California. Why? We'd probably try to stab each other. Now, Michael's pretty laid back, but the thing, and he did prior to COVID, he used to do a Thursday where he brought a bunch of guys over his house. Same thing. They're all Filipino martial arts, but all different clubs. Hey, let's all get together and just shoot the shit and talk about stuff in the industry and, and hang out and have a good old time. So, the East Coast, man, we get along so much better. And
it seems, I mean,
and Tony, bingo.
From the evidence on FMA discussion, but again, I'm East Coast located, so I can't speak on because not touching hands with people over there. But I would have to say, since COVID, I've definitely seen improvement and folks getting together, cross training by via Zoom and what have you, and some of these events. I definitely could say I think I've definitely seen an improvement in that. I can't necessarily speak for out there, although
here's my question. Okay. We all started talking as an industry.
Yeah.
So during the storm, we all brought our ships together. Was that to make us stronger or to scuttle each other's ships when they were going down? I'm pessimistic. I'm sorry. and I see in some cases people saw a bigger picture and they got better. But
I think that's true for a lot, but I think some
there's
had a personal agenda.
There's still some knuckleheads out there that just.
I know, but you know what though, and we're always going to have that. And one of the things by doing this channel, despite my efforts, I finally came to the conclusion, man, you're crazy if you think you're going to like solve all the problems and bring unity to everybody. And I realized that last year when I started doing the theme episodes with KI and all that. And I'm like, I put the temp there, but much to your point, there's personal agendas and people who just don't want it. They just don't. They don't want it. They just don't.
Some people are taking stuff from their instructors. I mean, this is taught. It's passed on. It's not something that's, why can't, hell, Jared Wanhangi, Bill McGrath doing seminar together. Boom. Boom.
I know.
Okay.
I know. That was
awesomeness.
That was a revelation. That set the tone. And I thought that was going to greatly improve. Well, I think it did as far as the PTK world.
I think it brought a better unity.
I think
there's still things that our industry needs to learn. And I would love to, I hate to say it this way to sound like a jerk. I would love to mentor some of these people, like bring them to some of the things that I do. Like you got to see a whole nother world when you went to the symposium.
Yeah, I was overwhelmed, to be honest.
150 people training together, all these different styles. Why can't that be us? Why can't
I'm not disagreeing with you. I think, you know what, though? I think it's going to happen because I'm trying to get stuff going different. I think it's going to happen. I just think, you know what it takes? It takes a few people like you being on that, just start doing it. You know what I mean? Like, people just
I've been doing it for decades, and unfortunately, I think I'm right now, to be honest with you, I don't give a shit anymore. I got to worry about mine first. Yeah. Mount Arnis has got some problems, and it's a gene pool problem getting smaller and smaller, and it's getting more visibility. But we need to stop promoting people and start producing people. And I see a bunch of these promotions for no reason. And it's like, okay, I retire from doing martial arts and I'll give you a grandmaster title. I got a backyard group. I'm going to give you an 8th degree black belt. I'm going to teach out of my basement. I'm going to give that guy an 8th degree black belt. Oh, and I'm going to give him a grandmaster title. Produce a goddamn student. Produce the next generation. But we digress and going off.
No, I know. I'm going to get us back on track.
Hey, but Rocky's got some good stuff there, by the way.
All right. I definitely want to check that. And Renee, I just want to make sure I'm not missing. Yes, Anthony definitely blamed him. When's the BTOC? Renee, that is the 11th. That actually is a week from this Saturday, and I'm looking forward to it. And thank you again for all that. Okay. So here, Rocky, I'll tell you what, I'll
share it. That looks good.
I'll post it. Yeah. So here we go. First location was, I'm getting tempted to pronounce that, but Ypsilanti, Michigan. Okay.
Yeah.
The first Modern East only school by 1984. I was in Lincoln Park, Michigan, teaching Modern East and Blintalong. My schools were always our niece schools, of course. I had my flavor of boxing, judo. So it looks like he was predominantly teaching Arnis. Okay. All right.
He was the first.
So all right, which makes me okay. So back to where before we got off track there. So I mentioned he came to East Coast, saw the greener pastures, if you will.
Yeah.
Did he go back out to the West Coast, or was it just like
very few and far between? I mean, he would go visit family, okay. And then so business-wise, it was easier for him out here because there was greener pastures, less competition.
Okay.
It wasn't all in one state, and it wasn't in areas that were highly concentrated Filipino communities with a lot of Filipino martial arts instructors.
I love this comment.
Which one is that?
GM Ray, non-tel with a clientele.
There we go. You paid him for that.
Well, he's
Yeah, well,
you were supposed to keep that quiet, but Okay. So here's something here. Buffalo was a mess for years, and you did the best job of organizing it. That's from Rocky. Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately,
In so many arts. Yeah, exactly, Anthony. It's not just FMA, right?
no, no. I think
Okay.
that,
Do our event like symposium.
yeah.
Okay.
I think in the big scheme of things, people are getting beyond that. I think we're realizing that other activities are our competitors, but there's
Mm.
still leftover stuff. Um, but who knows? I mean, I'd like to see it in my lifetime. Um, but in the meantime, I've dedicated decades of trying to do things for. I mean, Jack Latour gives me props all the time for this, but I got to focus on my art now because it needs me. You know, and I just can't do that. But getting
Well,
back,
yeah. So we're gonna definitely. That's gonna be one of the episodes in the future,
you know,
and all that. So the West Coast kind of got put on the back burner.
yeah. I mean, you would go back out.
But he did get back out there though, because the West can't, right? I mean, something happened, right? I
Okay,
mean,
so in the '90s there was camps. I think the last camp that was done, it was the Pacific Northwest. It was going to be done up in Olympia, Washington, and
mm.
maybe it may have moved down. I know Anderson hosted a couple for a while, um, and but they stopped. The camp stopped.
So let me ask this: Kelly Warden, when did he get involved?
81, 82,
So how did he get involved in 81, 82?
because there was camps out there for a period of time.
In the early 80s?
There were some seminars going on because Remy was still living out there and is going back and forth. Like I said,
So he was doing seminars. Maybe he was going to Oregon and Washington.
yeah. So
I
I mean,
got you.
so he had that going on.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
if we're talking about the quantity of seminars, he
Okay.
still did a little, but he wasn't doing much out there in comparison.
Not to the magnitude of the East Coast.
No.
Okay. Okay. This is a touchy.
Yeah, I didn't say that.
It can be until we are all dead. There will always be issues. Best to do what Tim said. It's not what, man, but just do your thing. Yeah, but just doing your thing doesn't. I don't know if I agree with that. But then again, I haven't seen all. I'm not privy to everything in modern.
Ultimately, it's really only one organization anymore here in North America. I look at it more. People have personal brands they're promoting, but
okay.
But if you're going to have an organization, which was rough because Remy had a following.
Yeah.
He didn't have a headquarters.
Mm.
He didn't have a written belted curriculum. He had the black belt test, which several of us deconstructed and made our own rank curriculum. I was talking
From the
about
test.
officially.
Okay.
So I was in discussions with submitting a belted curriculum. Once again, he was trying to do things from a stand-up program. The only thing I wanted was a byline on it. I would have done it for free. I would have taken mine. I did extra things. I mean, I also was training combatant at the time.
Well, in conjunction to teaching and promoting modern Arnis.
There's a bunch of things that I would cross train. I would look. Okay, modern Arnis predates, but is a lot like Jeet Kune Do. He absorbed what was this, that, and the other thing. The difference was Remy did it as a self-defense system, not as a fighting art. Or Jeet Kune Do,
not as a kickboxing science.
Where I mean, if you look at Jeet Kune Do as the whole, and we know there's exceptions when I say this.
Mm.
Burton's thing is he tries to take it towards a self-defense situation, but that's not the norm of Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah, Burton's not the norm.
No, I mean, Jeet Kune Do was okay. So, like, if you look at Kempo Karate as a whole, it's a self-defense art. They can fight, but they're not fighters. They're not duelers. Jeet Kune Do was made to be a dueling art, not a self-defense system. So
that's true.
So if someone said, I want to learn self-defense, I have American Kempo Parkers or whatever. I'm not even talking about the brand. Let's say the quality is equal on both sides. So let's say Parker's Kempo because Parker was the one that made it, or you can go Kaja Kempo or whatever. I don't care. And then you've got Jeet Kune Do. I want to be a better self-defense person. I would say go into Kempo. I want to be a better fighter going to Jeet Kune Do. They
Yeah.
can do both, but what's their specialty? Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's a dueling art. Some of the Gracies are trying to get back to self-defense, but it was a competitive art. That's why we have the UFC.
Absolutely. Okay.
So,
All right. So 80s. So all right, before we segue into the 90s, what other changes, or let's look at it this way. From your entry point in 1985 to 1990, anything of significance that you personally saw as far as changes?
okay, so I would see these little eras. I would see these influences. He hooked up with Wally J and George Dillman.
That
And
was okay.
I saw small circle become a big part of what we do. Now, we use the term Dumag in our group for grappling, but really, I mean, because I teach a Filipino martial art, I use Filipino terms. But really, a high percentage of what we do is from small circle jiu-jitsu, which was Wally J, but that's a derivative of Danzanru jiu-jitsu. I've seen Remy do a lot of bunkai in his forms, and that became, George Dillman was doing stuff like that. I actually saw Remy do a pressure point knockout to my teacher, my initial instructor, John Bryant. I was there when he did it. A little flash knockout. Not this no-touch stuff. I'm talking like a brachial plexus type stun, one of those, Remy changed based on who he was around. Like Ron Browning. Ron Browning fought for Don King, did movies, used to let Chuck Norris use his facility during the filming of Walker. But here's the big thing. Ron Browning was the trainer of Guy Metzger and cornered him to become the UFC champion. And when Remy hung around him, Remy was a sponge. And he would look what other people were doing and see how he could use that for inspiration to enhance his system. Not necessarily take the material.
Gotcha.
Another thing.
I got here.
Actually,
Kurt.
Can you hold on one second?
No, go ahead.
I'll be right back.
I can get some of these comments. No, go ahead. Kurt, I'm going to ask that question at the end, buddy. I definitely seen it. All right, let's just see what this is about. The West Coast was a wild place. The Wild West. Stockton boys didn't play. Remy's West Coast guys were mostly seminar guys that used a lot of his weapon stuff to seminars. Remy did a lot of demos, but his seminars were more Pacific Northwest. Kelly, okay, that would make sense for. Okay, that would make sense. All right, for Datu, Warden. Okay. His first real camp was 83 in West Virginia, which we said. Yeah, he was heavy with, right, the trio. All right. Huh, all right. Well, that explains the West Coast. Okay. Thank you. If you guys got a question, oh, no, he's back. Okay, so, all right. We're on what you saw as far as 85 to 90, like changes.
So that's when like the small circle stuff and the relationship with Wally J happened.
Okay.
Now I'm going to talk about the left and right.
Okay, go ahead. The famous left and right.
This happened. I remember where. I don't remember the exact year.
Okay.
I'm going to say it's around 94-ish. So at one time, if Remy went left-handed with you, that was a badge of honor. He would freestyle. He would do his tappy-tappy, and there was nothing. Around 94, it became no longer something to talk about because what he had developed was predetermined sequences left versus right.
Okay, so based on memorization pattern, more pattern oriented.
He was working out all these sequences. Now it became a good and bad thing for me.
Okay.
Because he also changed the name. So what was Tappy Tappy originally was like Sagitas from Balintawak, which was I feed a random angle, you come back to my head. I feed another random angle, you come back to my head. So it's the second level Blintwalk. Blintwalk, before you learn groupings, you learn the abecedario. Okay. Or Bobby will use the term your fundamentals. So you feed the angles of attack in numerical order with a predetermined footwork. Now, one, you would just do that in the air. Two, you would swing at someone and you'd block. They would block and you work there. The third one, they would block and then they do a counterattack. And the fourth one, you do a block, they do a counterattack, and then you block that counter. Okay. That's all, but that's abecedario. You don't spend a lot of time there. Then you go to Sakitas. Same concept. Swing, and they come back, but it's a random feed.
Random now. Gotcha.
So Remy did the Sagitas without the footwork. That originally was called Tappy Tappy. You did it from Solobastan semi-sparring, which is the single Sinwali pattern in the budding, what everyone refers to as Tappy Tappy now. When Remy came out and did the left on right, those are just inserts into what I thought was what would have been Solobastan semi-sparring. And you'll even see them on the original videos. Not the left on right, but the whole reference as Solobastan semi-sparring. But a lot of people didn't buy the video, so they wouldn't know what the proper term is if they didn't hear Remy refer to it. Mm. So, and then one night he just said it's all Tappy Tappy. And we've all butted heads because they're like, no, this is Tappy Tappy. No, that's Tappy Tappy. This is Tappy Tappy. That's Tappy Tappy. So that became, then once we figured it out that he combined the two divisions, the other problem was he taught us all to do the techniques left against right. So I would do it left-handed against my partner, and then we'd switch so they get to do it. But one day I'm like, wait a minute, I do everything with both hands. Why the hell am I doing it this way? So I would feed them so they could do it left-handed to me. Okay. And then I would feed them so I could do it right-handed to them. Then we would both switch. So I would do techniques on both sides. I would do the left versus right, and then I do right versus left. And because people didn't see Remy do it that way, they only saw him do it as a lefty because Remy was a lefty. Well, you can't do that. Really? Why not? Well, because Remy's doing it left-handed. Well, of course, Remy's left-handed. So, and people would never practice it with their strong hand. I'm like, so you're telling me everything in the art that we do with both hands except for this? And you're going to stick fight me, and I already had a reputation of being a fighter, okay, in the group, inside of Modern Arnis. Rocky was the first fighter. I was the second, stick fighter. Yeah. You're going to fight me with your weak hand? Yeah. And then all of a sudden you saw the question mark form on their forehead, and they're like, oh. And I was trying to make a point, but they took it the wrong way, and at the end of the day, I really don't care.
So this is 94. So my question, I guess, based on that change you described, what is the difference? So Tappy Tappy is the single Sinawali?
Yeah. So, okay. No, what would happen is this was Solobastan material, which if you found footage of it. And then from Solobastan, you would feed and you would do the Sagitas from Balintawak. Eventually, one day, Remy put it all under one category. Okay. So
and that one category was called Tappy Tappy?
Yeah. Solobastan went out the window as a nomenclature, as a naming system. Remy stopped using the term Solobastan semi-sparring. So initially, it caused a little issue because everyone thought no one knew what my group did the original Tappy Tappy that most people didn't see. Rocky will tell you, only a handful of people were able to understand the concept that Remy was trying to pull off at the time.
You're referencing the old Tappy Tappy?
Well, I do both. It's all together, but the original Tappy Tappy, which was the Balintawak influence material, not many people could do. Okay. Remy came up with a different delivery system later down the road, but that was like in 99.
Was that to make it fundamentally easier for the masses, or?
He was constantly doing research. Door chairs, yes, Sagitas. Okay. I was looking to see what someone was saying, but I can, I think there's sometimes we all have material we cannot figure out a way to convey to our students.
Mm-hmm.
So those who picked it up, you work with. Those who didn't, you may move on. And then later he put it on a shelf, kept continuing with the people that could handle it and didn't do it the others. And then later he came up with a better delivery system, a way he wrapped his head around it a little differently to explain it better.
Okay. Right. I'm just the only reason I'm was asking more or less single Sinawali versus Tappy Tappy. I didn't know they were synonymous.
They're the same thing.
I got you.
Well, you wouldn't do the Sagitas elements of Tappy Tappy without doing the Solobastan semi-sparring single Sinwali chassis first.
You need a chassis first. That makes sense.
So Remy would always do the basic Solobastan drill, and then inside he'd start putting the Blintzwalk inserts, and then go back into the Sinwali drill. And
when he's putting inserts in there, the other person's doing the Sagitas.
Well, when he started putting the inserts in, that was Sagitas, because he would feed us randomly, and we blocked and went to the head, which is classic Sagitas and Blintzwalk.
Gotcha. Okay.
But not everybody could understand that. So everyone was doing Solobastan semi-sparring, but not everybody was doing Tappy Tappy. So when he figured out the left on right, it was the Solobastan left on right, but he called it Tappy Tappy.
Gotcha. And this is circa 94.
Yeah, that's when he started rolling out all the left on right, and he really had this huge explosion because the left versus right setups offer so many different possibilities that weren't there on the right on right or left on left.
So if you were in a program which the material was secondary or tertia, you might not have gotten it, or
no, there's definitely you wouldn't have gotten the Blintzwalk stuff most likely.
Okay.
Yeah, this was where a video demonstration would be a lot better. But
no. But I'm getting the gist of what you're saying. I'm looking at what I'm getting to is I'm looking as a globally far as the community, like who was getting what and who wasn't getting what, based on these evolution of changes, I guess.
So the thing here is a lot of people missed a lot of material, including some of the leaders. Actually, a majority of the leaders, if I think so, because they weren't around long enough to have that depth. Because Remy taught in a rotating program. So let's say he started trapping hands here, or like you would say hubud. It's similar, but not the same. Well, then he would do in the Cruzada flow drill, which was a gunting drill. Then he would go off into another drill, which was like Sombrada drills.
Okay.
And then he'd go into another thing. But this was years. These were themes. He would still do bits and pieces, but he might stop teaching trapping hands, and people didn't understand what trapping hands was or the relevance to it because they didn't do all the drills because Remy had moved on in the training environment. Because, well, people should have been doing their own work and going back and teaching their students.
Okay. Here's quite a... Remy, let me just, Remy used so much, oh boy. Hold on, let me just back it up. I lost it, son of a gun.
Yeah.
Remy used to there. He was looking to add a new element to semi-sparring. Decadena was getting harder and harder to teach because Remy was never around long enough for people to get it. That's where what Tim is talking about that came in. All right, so Tappy Tappy kind of replaced the Decadena is okay, which in my opinion hurt the art. He should have just let his guys like Tom, Andy Kelly, who had to teach, in my opinion, was what happened. Everything dropped. Which was severely watered down version. Okay, I'm getting the gist of what he's saying. Okay.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I agree and disagree. I think Remy ended up having a better introductory version. But the problem is the problem is we didn't have dedicated academies that you could go to and get the extra training.
Got it. Okay. George is saying we went, and Remy said to do tappy tappy. We would do cicadas, and others would do the left and right, and wonder what we were doing.
Yeah,
I can see that. Okay.
But Remy did teach that as well. Even he unfortunately he implemented a name change and didn't get the message out there.
But also, could it be also predicated on what Rocky referenced, not being around, depending on his visits and how long he was staying? Maybe he didn't get the time in with that particular group.
Oh no, there's no question. I mean, listen, he was places for a weekend.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, right? You don't do so much in a weekend.
And remember, like, okay, when I first started getting associated with hosting him, like it was Jerome Barber and me doing stuff through the college, ECC, Erie County Community College, or Erie Community College. The Self-Defense Club paid for it. He'd come in on a Friday, teach a class Saturday, fly out to Connecticut and do a seminar for Lowry or someone the very next. So most people only had 4 hours of training with him, maybe 5.
Okay, so Chad also remembers when it was called Decadena.
See, I never used that term. Decadena for me, that we brought up, was the trapping hands Decadena style, which you'd go back and forth. So there'd be 1 steps, 1, 2, 3, and then we go back and forth like you would in Hubud, where you blend it back and forth. That was doing trapping hands in a Decadena fashion. Now, I don't know if Remy called it one. And once again, there may have been a name change. It could have also been, I remember backwards throw was this, which is the Dakota Geish. Side-by-side throw was more of a interlocking throw this way. And I know one region had them backwards. Now, it could have been that they remembered it backwards, or Remy misspoke that day, because when he got excited, he was talking in tongues and things were coming out.
Yeah, he might just mistakenly.
And someone may have, someone could have taken bad notes, or they could have taken good notes, and it was on Remy's side.
Here's a question, Chad. Here's a question: was the empty hand also referenced Decadena? See what he comes at. Bingo, Tim. The dedicated schools, he couldn't get it going, but that was spot on, Remy. Right. I mean, if he's only there for a weekend, it's gonna be tough.
He was only there for a day.
Yeah.
Here's the problem, and we can blame it on a whole bunch of things. Hey, sir. We
All right, so Frank also, I remember Frank referencing that too when he came on with Ty, that it was Decadena predated Tappy Tappy. Okay.
See, like I said, I
tell you, man, I'm gonna be thorough in my these.
I think it's regional because in Buffalo, so Buffalo was in 81. It was never called Decadena. Decadena was how you did your trapping hands. So once again, we may not have gotten it right here. They may not have gotten it right here. Who knows who got it right? I'm seeing that. Okay, so police means the pass. So a strike would come in and you would pass. And then I saw a strike come high and Remy would pass it high. But they said, oh, this is the application of Abanico. I go, Remy, isn't that just a highline police? It is all the same, Tim. I'm like, okay, so
just different name, yeah.
So and I can see, you're talking about an Abanico, but it's not an Abanico because the Abanico, you pivot at the hand where you would go here and you would pivot at the tip to pass it over to do your locks and controls. So I can see where they made that relationship, but to me, that's a highline police because you're passing from one side to another. You're not hitting with the Abanico. You're manipulating the stick and passing it, which that's what police means to, from corner to corner. It doesn't mean fan strike.
Fanning, right. Okay. Trapping hands, okay. Trapping hands was hand Decadena is what Professor told me.
Yeah. So I mean, I know. Eric said this. Eric, I know why Ty got it from Eric. I don't know where Eric got it from. And Frank and Ty were both students of Eric. And I guess, and the other thing too is, how was the question posed? Like if you asked Remy the question, did you pose it in the same way? because it could have easily, or was it,
Okay. So, what's your point, though? I mean, depending on if somebody misheard it or notes were taken wrong.
right.
I mean,
Like I said, we could have had it wrong in Buffalo. I'm not saying we got it right. Okay, I became the forms instructor for Remy. I'm not saying I even do the forms the way he wanted, but I can consistently produce a product that he liked having demonstrated.
okay.
And you could tell everyone who trained with me from other schools as well, when it came time to the forms, you saw that unity.
Mm.
And I would do the same thing with other techniques as well.
Okay. So, all right, we're getting into. All right, we're pretty much there. I mean, let me see. I'm gonna like this one. Learn KI in early days. Nothing was structured. Names and terminology was confusing. Moves that looked exactly the same called different things. So I made a decision not to learn terminology, but perfect the actual techniques. Good move. And it served you well. I just number things these days. If you need terminology, I read Romeo and Margot. Yeah. Well said, Jim. Okay, here we go. Jim, my onions are definitely not the standard onions. Okay.
Well, that's a choice thing.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I know. But I could see the confusing, like you mentioned, the overlap.
Well, I mean, let's use Chad as an example. What were you trying to do? Chad put his own program together, which is a compilation of a bunch of things. So he's not representing modern Arnis exclusively. Modern Arnis is part of his synthesis, but he's not waving the modern Arnis banner. He's waving the progressive Arnis banner, which has
smart.
a whole bunch of things. Well, no, but I mean, no. The thing here is, I mean, I'm trying to represent Remy Pracis or the Pracis family systems. That's why I go with Pracis Arnis.
No, I got you.
I'm not putting Kali Illustrissimo in. I'm not putting in the Quartus. Okay, I'm looking at all the things that contributed to the building of modern Arnis. All right, my Bondo, the Bondo, you'd think it was modern Arnis, but what I learned there is teaching templates, not how to structure teaching, how to look at things and look at commonalities. I didn't take their system and use it to teach modern, but the way the concepts that they break down, I'm like, okay, we have all this in modern. I like the way they describe this better. So in modern, when you're doing follow through striking, if it comes from your right foot's in front. If it comes from your left foot's in front. That's follow through striking, not just a hit like you're sparring. You're like your kill shots. And the question was, Tim, why do you do that? From Dr. G. He goes, well, it's better body mechanics. Went through all this stuff. I go, that's cool. You know why we do it? No, sir. Could you enlighten me? Well, it's safety cuts or strikes. Well, what do you mean? I go, we're clearing the path of the weapon to travel. So less chance of hitting or cutting yourself.
Your leg.
Oh my God. That's a better way to describe it. So I took that description. Why do we step this way? So we don't hit ourselves. And when I do our locks and throws, why do I step backwards? So the body doesn't fall on our body, clearing the path for the body or the weapon to travel. It's not changing what I'm doing. It just gave me a different way of describing what I'm doing. But
understood.
Stuck with my Pracis family systems.
Yeah. All right. And then we got So anything else in the 90s as far as, I mean, obviously now he's momentum camps. I mean, he's on the road doing seminars. I mean, Texas, God knows where else. Any far as evolution, far as curriculum or the approach or giving it to the masses, delivery?
So it is still getting more and more evolution is going on.
Okay.
He started shooting a new series of videos.
Okay.
So in the US, he was all up and down the East Coast. He was in the Midwest, which I don't know why you'd say Midwest is Detroit or Michigan, because Central is Chicago, which is past that, but whatever. So he's in Chicago. He started developing Texas. They were playing catch up. And then he was getting back to go back into Marlena Hufano was going to start hosting the Pacific Northwest camps again.
In the 90s. Okay.
It was 99. Well, actually, he hosted a seminar with Remy in 2000, and he was going to host a camp in 2001.
Okay. It looks like 82, 89. Michigan was Remy's hideout area. Okay.
He spent a lot of time in Michigan. He spent a lot of time in Buffalo.
Okay.
And he spent a lot of time in Philadelphia. Those were
Texas too, right?
What?
Texas too, right?
No.
No, you didn't spend a lot of time in Texas? Okay.
No. Okay. He was developing Texas. He wasn't spending that.
He wasn't spending. I got you.
He was visiting there a lot because they were playing catch up. But I mean, he would hang out in Philadelphia. I mean, like the three areas that had the highest concentration of modern Arnis.
Yeah.
Michigan, Philly, and Buffalo. Buffalo had the highest concentration per capita. But Philadelphia, so go flash back to the first camp. The second camp, and Rocky even talked about it, George Chung and Cynthia Rothrock were part of the second camp. It was hosted by a guy named Joe Bridenstine at Rosemont College. They were 2-week-long camps.
Okay.
Philadelphia. So Joe Bridenstine was one of the guys in the WKKA, which is the World Kempo Karate Association. That was from Joe Palazzo, a former Parker guy. So he became the weapons consultant for that. Philadelphia, first and foremost, or the Metro Philly area going into Jersey and Delaware and stuff like that, has probably got the highest concentration of Kempo karate outside of Pasadena, where Parker started. And they all were doing modern Arnis because they're all WKK members, and it was blended into their system more as a secondary, tertiary system. But so many people down in that area did Remy's art, whether they realized it or not, because it was blended into their curriculum. So Remy spent a lot of time in Philly, a lot of time in Buffalo, a lot of time in Detroit. Now, not to say he didn't go other places.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Okay.
But I mean, and he was doing, he was doing 2 camps a year in Texas.
And then the camps in Massachusetts started occurring, no?
Massachusetts started after Michigan. So after the 2 camps in Philadelphia, or 2 or 3 camps, they actually shut those down eventually. Terry Warham started the Michigan camp, and it was the longest running camp.
Oh, okay.
And then from there, Richard Roy attended that camp because I was there when because I was at all the camps. And then Richard Roy started hosting the Massachusetts camp. The longest continuous running camp up until the time of Remy's passing was Michigan camp run by Terry Warham. It was also the most advanced camp. I've been to the others. They were solid, but they weren't Michigan.
Wow. Okay. So Michigan. Okay.
Well, it was the longest camp. I mean, we'd have 80 to 100, 120 people show up to that camp, and they all had trained with Remy. So it's
So
I mean, people went to Michigan to get the model down to start their own versions of camp. So of course,
they use that as a template for
So that's how Massachusetts started. That's how Joliet. Okay, so Dave Converse hosted camps in Joliet, Illinois. That's how the Texas group started. They all attended Michigan.
And they just makes sense. All right, so we're going through the 90s. Unfortunate passing. 2000 things initially a little unraveled due to the death, which usually understandably
it happened before the death.
Happens.
It happened before.
That happens. Okay. Yeah. All right. It was an amazing all-inclusive camp. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we stayed at MSU on campus. It was like $350, all foods included.
Oh yeah, geez.
Oh, it was great. Oh my God, yeah, it was amazing. And then my fridge was always stocked with Canadian beer. We were very nocturnal. We'd be up till 2, 3, and 4 in the morning at my place, and then we trained at 9 in the morning. But Buffalo was open till 4 in the morning anyway, so we were kind of used to that.
You guys were used to the late nights. Got
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um,
I didn't like the early
but
morning part, but I mean, we never missed a session.
yeah, yeah. So, all right. So then you're post death. Obviously, nothing was evolving anymore.
Oh
As far
no,
as curriculum,
no, we evolved.
as far as the curriculum.
We did.
Okay, so you got okay. All right. Okay.
We looked at a whole bunch of different delivery systems. I'm actually I've experimented with angles of attack and stuff. Right now, we've got a different version of the 12 angles.
Okay.
See, here's the thing. Like, I changed the angles of attack a bunch of times for different reasons, not to be different, but to have a better teaching platform.
Okay.
So the 12 angles of attack didn't make sense. Oh, listen, they make sense if you did Balintawak because of the angles of attack from Balintawak. Just after angles 1 and 2, they're flipped.
Okay.
So modern, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, Balintawak is 1, 2, backhand 3, forehand 4, and then 5. Modern is forehand 1, backhand 2, forehand 3, backhand 4. The pokes are switched, the leg shot. So from angles 2 and so most of the angles, except for the center lines, all the angles are taught in pairs. In modern Arnis, all the angles start with the forehand first and backhand second, all the pairs, except for the leg shots. It's backhand first and forehand second. So I experimented with flipping the leg ones because the angles of attack were not tied. The order of the angles of attack were not tied to any main curriculum. We could teach it in any order we wanted.
Okay.
We could start with a 12 if we wanted. So now
Right,
what I do is I do an 8-angle system first, which is all the strikes and then the first thrusting. And then after they get that done, I got men, women, and children were real easy. I mean, it's just forehand 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the first hit poke 8. When they get that down, then I teach the 9, 10, 11, and 12. And when people see those other angles, they get a little confused initially. And I'm teaching self-defense. Who's going to stab them this way? So I don't think that they're bad angles of attack. I prioritize when they should be taught. Since I switched to the 8-angle introduction as the basic angles of attack, my goodness. Learning curve. I mean, listen. I've taught over 30,000 classes. Okay. I teach at a bare minimum in my school alone 20 classes a week.
20 a week, man.
Okay. So let's say 50 weeks, taking 2 weeks off for holidays. Okay. So there's 1,000 classes. Right. I've been doing this since full time since 2000. Okay. Full time. Okay. Then but I've been teaching since 86. And that's not even talking about seminars and training camps that I teach. No one has taught the same quantity of modern Arnis classes that I have.
Yeah, well, you're full time. I think that's fair. Yeah.
So I've experimented with so many different things, trying to find the best way to do stuff. I find good things. I find bad things.
But if you're making
idea. Oh shit, this was a bad idea. Back to the drawing board.
But if your students are getting it better because you change it up, I mean, well, then that's to me that's a good change. You know what I mean?
And the things that we've done don't take away. It's still the concepts of Remy.
Speaking on the Michigan camp, started down grew early camps, fun nightlife once in a while. So man, he would be upset because people were out too late. Oh, jeez. He didn't like you guys being out late.
There was maybe.
Yeah.
As long as I gave Remy a beer back then, he was okay.
So okay.
Didn't take much.
So then the evolution, as far as post-death, was it basically taken upon folks that were actively teaching, but if they weren't actively a student or a full-time student, I'm guessing they didn't make any changes.
So I've seen things that other groups have done, and
Here's a guy I want to get on.
Yeah.
Here's a guy I want to get on for the future.
Who's that?
For a modern niece with maybe it was Chris Chu, Noah.
Who's Noah?
I want to get younger cats in there as far as the future of modern niece. So I have to get some young folks on there. So no, if you're interested in doing that, let me know. Chris Chu, Noah, and could be Chris Chu and Noah.
Let me look at Noah King here. Is that his face? Is that a? It's a Facebook. Okay, I'm gonna look to see if I know this guy.
But he's saying the 12 angles learned came from the modern system. I went on to learn a numbering system. Yeah, okay. All right.
I don't see him all on my list here. It is Facebook.
Yeah, he's on.
I just there's so many Noah Kings here. Hey Noah, who'd you study with? Brian Lucas. Okay, no clue. Who did Brian study with?
Noah, Chris Chu is father is Bruce Chu, a master in modernese. So we're gonna find out, I guess, who Brian Lucas. Okay.
No, okay.
You might have to find out.
Is he one of your Facebook friends?
He is.
Okay, I'll look him up via your because it just I got nothing. Sometimes you get a name that is just.
You know what you do? I could just have him just send you a friend request. No, send Datu a friend request.
He might not like me.
He might. I'm watching.
He might be there to heckle me for all I know.
Did GM Remy achieve what he wanted? Good question.
So he was on the path too.
He said he would send you one. Haha.
Damn it.
So he was on the path. So he was on the path.
He was on the path. So he was getting ready to do camps in the Philippines. Listen, you know what?
Oh, so he was ready to bring it back, do full circle. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, he wanted. Okay, I was supposed to go with him to the Philippines for 2 months. That's the regret I have. Of all the things, people like, do you have a regret? And there's a few things that we can talk about. I don't really want to get into those, right now. But the regret I have is that I wish I would have went with him when he asked me. I would have gone for 2 or 3 weeks. I could have done that. He was setting things up.
Yeah.
So I was the one that got the brothers to speak again. And Ernesto offered Remy to use his training camp. I would have encouraged that, but Remy wanted to build his own camp there. I would have loved to have met Christina Vasquez. There's one person I didn't meet. And I would have liked to see these guys as Remy's boy going to the Philippines and have them test my mettle or vice versa. Not in a negative way.
No.
But, I wasn't pushed here by anyone other than Remy because of my commitment. Rocky, when he was around, it was cool because Rocky was at a point that I was working towards. I wasn't there. But after I got in my groove with Remy, remember, 3 dedicated schools of modern Arnis. Rocky was the first.
Yeah.
Okay. John Bryant was the second. Rocky would blow him out of the water. And I'm not talking using his other Filipino martial arts. I'm talking about his modern Arnis ability. Rocky phased out before I got in my own. Okay. So, and Rocky and I kept a good relationship. Love, hate. We've always gotten along. We've bumped heads a few times, but we've always gotten along, in a big scheme of things, because family fights.
So here's a question that kind of parallels GM Ray's. Looking down, do you think he's happy?
I think he's happy with me.
But overall, at the overall Monese community, you think he's happy?
No, because in Remy's will, which I didn't like the fact that Dan posted, he published the will in its entirety, which I have a huge problem with, because the family estate was no one's business but their own. So I don't know who the hell he thought he was to share that. That being said, it did list the martial arts section, which had been out there before.
Mm.
I'm going to pull it up right now because I have it. So there was 3 versions of the will that I know of, and the last one was done. First one was done by David Pajak.
You must have paid. So I'm not the only one that paid Anthony.
No. He's just telling you what Bruce Chutnick tells him to say. Bruce likes me. I don't know why. When Bruce and I met, we didn't like each other at all, but that was because the host was a jerk. We actually liked each other. We actually like each other a lot. I got a lot. Bruce.
Here's a question. Hey, Ray, do you think Giamillo Susan was happy with the KI community? Uh-oh. Did I just cause trouble? I'm the one that introduced. You introduced them. Okay.
I didn't forget
you. Yeah, absolutely not happy. Matter of fact, I was going to comment on that thread, basically saying the bigger problem is the present KI community today, how factions can't work together or acknowledge one another. I'm sorry, I'm getting off on a KI rant. Sorry.
I saw like that stuff. So this is a custom leather stick bag. Check this shit out.
Oh, look at that.
The rumor was that it came from the Philippines. It's wrong. This stick bag was made. It was custom made. It was commissioned by Bruce Chutnick.
All right.
He had it made for Remy. Years down the road, Remy gives this to a guy named Glenn Abrasi.
Okay.
Tells a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool stories. I'm just seeing if something was somewhere. Oh, yeah. Oh. I got a lot of... Glenn tells a story about how the Tong in Chinatown were going to mess with Remy and Glenn Abrasi. And Glenn was all worried about it. So Remy made this out of a fork.
Ooh.
And Glenn led me to believe that this is the actual one that Remy made by hand. Like, think how strong they were to defend themselves against the Tong. He didn't tell me whether they used it or not, but he gave me this. But Remy gave this to him. And then years later, Glenn, by the suggestion of Bruce Chutnick, gifted this to me.
Nice. That's a keeper, obviously.
So Bruce and I said there was issues, but at the end of the day,
yeah, I saw you guys together. Obviously, you guys get along.
Yeah, I mean the problem is we met through a guy that was a jerk. And that was the problem. We didn't not like each other. It's just that it was somebody else was being a jerk. And unfortunately, what was that? So what's this say? People?
He's saying talking with people that I've trained with, that got to touch hands with Professor, they all had told me that he was very joyful and funny guy. Wish I could have met.
Yeah, I mean
very nice fork. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. But so
Anthony's probably going to reintroduce you to. You You guys can start on a nice clean slate. Here we go. My problem with my Arnis always goes back to the old man. I unfortunately took it out on the wrong people. One day, Tim and I will have to sit and talk about the priorities made and broken. Promises made and broken. Sorry. So, promises made and broken. Serious stuff. So anyway, here I want to get to Kurt's question.
Okay.
Because I know we're going up on. So let me sign here. Hold on, Kurt. I didn't forget about you. Of course, it's doing this now. Okay, Kurt's question was, and I actually kind of remember it. And I just was okay. What do you see as the future FMA? You want I'll have you go and I'll chime in if assuming you didn't cover everything I feel.
The future of FMA?
Yeah, so Kurt's question is what do you see as the future of FMA?
Okay, so that's a little outside what well,
You can talk about our niece into it, for example.
Well, okay. I think the East Coast is going to get more props, the props that it deserves.
So it should get more?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the here we go. I'll be a fire starter here. I think that my middle name's Rubio, by the way. I think that the East Coast doesn't get its props. I think that the West Coast is overrated. They've gotten better media coverage because all the magazines are there and the video production companies and stuff like that. I think when who's the guy who did the bladed hand?
Name is escaping me now. Oh my gosh!
But
anybody know?
He did things here on the East Coast. My guy from Sheepdog Combatives actually helped put something together in the Metro DC area for him, and he got to see a bunch of the East Coast guys go, and he goes, those West Coast guys should be looking over their shoulders. And I'm like, no, they shouldn't be looking at the shoulders.
He was part of it, GM Ray, but the actual producer, oh my God, I can't believe
Ignacio or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So
Jay.
Yeah. Yes. So his comment was that the West Coast guy, and so of course Kurt put it down there. That the West Coast guys got to look over their shoulder. I don't think they have to look over their shoulder. I have to look, in many ways, they need to catch up with us. I think I look at West Coast being more fatty, trendy. I think East Coast is more way of life type thing. I think I think they're learning from us, because if you look at all these multi-style events where everyone is really getting along, they're mostly on the East Coast.
I'm seeing some. There's a guy who I had on a show some time ago, Michael, and he does an event out there. And I'm not saying this is commonplace or common period, but he does get other folks, FMA folks, in there. And again,
there's stuff out there.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't know how. The frequency of this, how much it occurs out there. Is it consistent? Is it a rarity?
I mean, there's definitely things that are happening out there. But I think if you look, like I've gone to Bruce. Okay, I go to Bruce's event all the time, and he's always had an FMA track at his gathering, and I see more up against the wall than I see embracing. Now, I will say,
folks actually participating.
Yeah, like I will say this: the multi-style guys.
Yeah,
I get along with those guys great. I love those guys because I met them out there, and they're all. But everyone's the same. So I was the first Caucasian to teach over at the gathering for FMA. Tony was there, and they're all up against the wall, And he's smiling like, this one guy, Tony had to go up and go, you got 5 minutes left. He goes, 5 minutes? I didn't do anything. Yeah, you did. You demonstrated for too much time. You got no time left. And they're too busy. And then I walk up, I teach, and I'm concise. I get people moving. I talk why I'm doing so. I talk about brace blocking, and I talk about dos manos because I'm thinking about real street weapons, not a hunk of rattan. And I'm teaching to my lowest common denominator. And Saturno almost made a comment when he was teaching. Well, I don't train to do this, but then again, this is all I train to do, and blah blah blah. And it almost went sideways, but he, was like, but he listened to what I was saying, and he gave me props. And the multi-style guys, they were really cool to me. And then Carlito and I got along, and all these other, But again, I'm the outsider. I can go from one group to another because I don't threaten them because I'm not their own. But if I was another Serrata guy, oh my God, in many ways. What's Bahalana? What's an Irish agreement, Bahalana? Come on, it's all it's a derivative of.
Yeah, that's another one. Bahalana, the court, that whole. But at any rate, so I'm going to give my 2 cents on Kurt's question. My biggest fear, as far as the future FMA, is that I feel, and I don't want to be right.
It was the biggest fear.
Oh, no. I'm just saying, no, he's saying the future of it. I'm just saying my fear of the future FMA is that I feel that some systems could sadly die out or become on the verge of just such a low number of practitioners where they're dead. And the reason why I say that is just because some systems are not generating farm teams. And what I mean, and I use this one system as an example because I love it, and Ray Floro knows Lameco. Like if those backyard guys don't get out there and actually teach it or pull together, work together, I'm really scared for what Lameco could be in 2 decades from now. I'm not saying it'll be completely dead. I just think it's going to be few and far between based on the presence I've seen in the FMA community here, the show, you see Roger Goulis, David Gould's really quiet. He's active. Bong Abia, one of the Flores, but teaching just Lameco by itself, it's not looking good. They hate to say it. KI, I don't think KI will be longer. I think if in the US, if we don't get our butts going, I think not like Lameco in there. So that's as far as the future FMA, like my big concern is not having these systems, like die out. But I think FMA, I think we're pivoting. What I'm seeing, folks working together, commonality, crossing lines. So I do like that as far as the future, and I think that will grow in the future, particularly when the old guard gets more and more removed. I do think you're going to have all these younger folks who were not part of those old time grudges and politics are going to not stick to that. That's my feeling. So that's basically in a nutshell. Here we go. Yeah, Lameco. Sadly, huh? How sad. One of the best systems out there, in my opinion. Here we go. This might be for you. What advice do you have for people like myself who are members of the newer up and coming generation? Keep pushing, get students. You guys are the ones going to perpetuate these arts. That's my advice. Datu?
Okay, so first thing you need to do is make a decision for what you're trying to do. So so this goes back to what Dean just got done talking. Why are you in the martial arts? If it's for personal benefit, then you really don't care whether these arts go forward or not. Listen, some people just want physical fitness. It's a good social event, whatever. Or they're just trying to up their level, their game, which they don't really care about teaching or anything like that. So the first question I would ask you is, what is your goal? If you're concerned about spreading the art, then I would find a group / organization that can help you there. Be part of a bigger team that can mentor. And I'm not saying leave your instructor. What I'm saying is look for outside sources that can help brand and market what you're doing. Like in our organization, we have 26, 27 schools in North America listed on the page. So there's a good directory to go there and for networking.
This question, Kurt, I have an answer to this, and unfortunately, it's not really good. Not all cases. Many of the times that when you're seeing this happen, I just know this by virtue of channel. If I didn't have the channel, I probably could answer this question for you. But it's guys who are disgruntled, left organizations, maybe for legit reasons. Could not have been their fault. They're, who knows? But then they kind of rebrand, put a different name on something, an existing methodology or system. That's generally speaking what far as evidence I've seen when some of the younger folks are doing this, it's because disgruntled, they were kicked out, ousted, or there was some internal friction and they decided to split ways. That's what I've seen.
So my question is why? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Not you, Dean. Kurt. Why would you create your own system or rebrand it? Now, in my case, I teach the Praces family systems. So instead of favoring one brother over the other, I decided to go with Praces Arnis because I'm teaching the systems together. But I didn't put my name on it. I didn't call it Hartman Martial Arts. I'm teaching this. You look at, let's use Bikini Tertia as the model. There's a bunch of people who have left Leo Gahe for personal reasons.
Or were removed from Leo Gahe.
Leo Gahe did not create Bikini Tertia. But all the people I know, including the disgruntled ones, say Bikini Tertia would not be what it is today without Leo Gahe. That being said, they've broken away, started their own associations, and they still teach Bikini. So they've strengthened the brand. So why would you? Okay, so I'm a student. No, I'm not. If I was a student, Robert Castro teaches Escabataan. It's primarily Serrata with a whole bunch of other things. So he has a student. So I'm a student, we'll just say. If I was to leave, he has the system. He owns the name. So I would have to rebrand because I wouldn't have his permission. But at the end of the day, why would you rebrand? Because now you're an island by yourself. And where's that going to get you? Plus, what's wrong with the system? Unless someone owns the name and you're not allowed to.
Scrutiny too. Like, why did you do that? Like, why? There's always going to come scrutiny with that. You know what I mean? Like, why? You know what I mean?
Who says you're good enough to be a founder? Need to spread the art as well, the best I can. Noah, Noah, maybe we should have a conference call and talk about that.
What's that?
Noah says thanks for the advice. I want to teach and spread the art as best I can.
Please do. We need a younger generation.
So, you know what? I'm looking for more people to be on our team. And if that's something you're interested in, I'd love to have that dialogue with you.
Noah's getting recruited.
Listen,
we got to recruit young folks.
I have an open door policy. You know what my guys are doing now? My guys are doing movies and stuff. Ryan Monolopoulos he got beat up by Spider-Man. He got beat up by Daredevil. He got beat up recently on National Treasure. He also got beat up by 11L on Stranger Things. He created a program called On Camera Combatives, which is all modern Arnis for the screen. He's teaching people how to do this. He's in front of and behind the camera. And that's because he started with what we're doing.
Noah, I have some sound. I mean, if you really like modern Arnis, just from doing the show and having a bunch of folks on here, and you want to spread it, I would highly recommend you kind of talk to Tim, Dr. Tim here. I think you'll be well served, and you'll have some credentials behind you, and you can kind of spread if modern Arnis is is your choice. But I'm going to need to know anyway. So when I bring you on a show with Chris, and I'll probably do that with, you know what I'm thinking, Datu? I think I would do that with you, Noah, and Chris.
Okay.
We'll have an old cat with two younger cats.
Well, I mean, Pete, listen, I needed a mentor. That was the one thing I missed. So I left John, and I had no one to tell me what to do. So I made a shitload of mistakes.
Hell yeah.
I wish that I had somebody who could just say, listen, because this is what I do with a lot of guys in Buffalo now that are like, we've got this tournament league, we're doing all this other stuff. And I'm basically like, I'm just going to sound cocky now. Okay. Like, hey, kid, you shouldn't do it because of this. But you know what? You're a grown ass adult. You need to make your own decisions. And sometimes you need to make your own mistakes. And I get it because I did the same damn thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Danny T.
Right now, though, okay, no, fair enough. But for the show, though, I need you to be in that minor Arnis lane, if that's okay. Coach Danny, late but here. You always, Coach Danny, dependable.
Hey, listen, next week Monday, Coach Danny's on our show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Actually, I know they got that camp. I gotta get him and Jack on. They have that thing going on in Louisiana. Yeah, when is that? Do I have time? I have time, right? It's not till what, March or something? When is that?
And for some reason,
Coach Danny, when's your guys' event? So I know when to make sure to get you and Two on Jack on.
Two on Jack. It sounds like Samurai Jack, but different.
Samurai Jack, Two on Jack. Yeah, I just want to know your guys, just so how much time I got to work with as far as getting you both on.
Hey, and listen, Danny, we talked about the camp, and obviously I can't do it this year, but if you get next year's date up ahead of time, I know Ty and I would do our best to be there. No pressure.
It's gonna be okay. We'll see what he comes back with.
Go
ahead.
Like we go back to this.
I got time then. Okay, yeah. All right, perfect.
With everything said and done, I think he'd be upset. We got off the beaten trail on this. I couldn't find the will. I was looking for it. I had it in my computer. I must have put it in an external hard drive. I think Remy'd be upset because his organization that he started is more or less defunct.
Or it's something over here, something over there, something over here.
Well, his students are still going, but I mean, it was the biggest. It was one of, whether you look at us, Modern Arnis is not thought as a Filipino standalone program. It's taught usually as an adjunct. It's something he wanted to evolve to. He didn't get there. Okay. He would be happy because in many cases, like in the Philippines, even by whether it be namesake alone, the art is being, at least its name is being pushed in the Philippines. Okay. More for the sport than anything else. But when we go back to the original book, there's a tournament section. To say he didn't like tournaments was nonsense. I just think he knew his people weren't committed enough to do well in the tournaments, which is why he didn't encourage them to go down that path. Well, he encouraged me.
He probably saw that and knew that, and I set him up for failure.
Right. Because you got to commit, and it's like, hey, dude, you're never going to be an Olympic athlete. Don't bother.
If it's a tertiary program, you're in a Kempo school, and you certainly not going to set you up for,
Right. So, but I think in the big scheme of things, the IMAF was his baby, and it's not here for all intents and purposes. That's the only downside. The good thing is a bunch of his students kept things going. His name is going forward.
That's why I say, I think there are other arts and systems that are in far more jeopardy, or the outlook, or how they're perceived. I don't put Modern Arnis in that bracket or my list. I think you guys got guys are perpetuating art. I see his name being thrown around, still in a very high regard.
So
I know there's. What's that?
Okay, so you got Bruce.
Yeah.
He's got a following down in his region.
Yeah.
You got me.
Yeah.
You take us off the board. What do you got?
You got Robert Small. He's still kicking it off. You got other guys that are
Who's
still.
Robert Small?
The guy who just commented here. Encourage growth, the art within the art.
He's a modern Arnis guy?
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. And not to sound like a jerk. Never heard of the guy, you know. But I'm going to look him up right now. Was he a
Datu's doing a credential check.
Well, no, but were you a student of Remy's?
Yeah, they were
oh, wait a minute. I get no, I know who this guy is. Never mind, Robert. Never mind, Robert. I know you are. I know you are.
They were modern East guys who competed in the Philippines and were champion Lance Vallette. Wow.
Jeff Arnold. Okay, he was a student of Jeff Arnold. Okay.
Okay, so he's legit. Yeah.
But
I'm just saying, when I see just by virtue of the shows and when I see FMA discussion, folks that really like modern East Post and all that,
I see it out there. But like, okay, let's ask Robert. Robert, how many modern East students do you have?
You know,
I mean, I want to be wrong. I want to be completely wrong.
I mean, look at the KI world, man. You can't get two factions or one faction thinks that they have all the answers and the other ones. I mean,
to be honest with you, okay, once again, we talk about scale. You've come to some of the events I go. Most Filipino martial arts, I value what they do. I appreciate the material they have. It's a shame, but a lot of times, as small group, okay, would that be under 20?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's a part-time gig for him.
So, I mean, but we need a gene pool to go forward. I mean, okay, you nailed it. Okay, what does Roderick Bullis? I like Roderick Bullis. I hooked Craig up with Roderick Bullis. I gave Roderick Bullis some teaching opportunities.
I know.
Currently, around under 20. Okay, so Robert stops teaching for whatever reason. Does he have anyone set up to take over? Okay, Bruce Chu, if he stops teaching, he's got Chris. What is the depth of knowledge that Chris has? Does Chris have the chops to go out and do the job? I'm not saying he doesn't. These are the questions.
I'm just saying there's worse. I know, but there's styles and organizations
I'm not saying.
that are worse shape, man.
Okay, so here's me being a snob. I'm going to come right out and say this. I'm telling you I'm snobby. I think most Filipino martial arts really don't have an idea of scale, and they overestimate the influence in the big scheme of things.
I think that's
when you talked about the top 50, which you then expanded to 100. Then I listened to Paulo's list and all this other stuff. I'm not going to say who said what, but there was many people that I would never put on those lists. But I also would have sat there and said Ron Balicki above Deanna. But
what's that?
Ron Balicki above you. No, I'm just busting your chops on that, brother.
Oh my gosh. Look at me.
All right, Noah.
Okay.
All right, I friend requested you, so just
Much will evolve. I think so too, Maria. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Like I said, I think FMA as a whole, we're at this. We talked about it the other day. I think a lot of people. I think with Remy gone, it gave people opportunities that wouldn't have had these opportunities. Some top tier guys got visibility because Remy was off the table. But you think about this, Remy was in all the magazines. Who had more visibility in the open martial arts? When did Leo Guy get the instructor of the year? Long after Remy was dead.
It was
only a couple years ago. I was at the thing that I think it was either just before or just at. I think it was just before COVID.
Okay.
Let me see. Okay. Okay.
They made many centers.
Yeah, they all different. Yeah.
So he made. I'm sorry.
Is that what you're looking at?
Modern East seminars with will improve when people who are into their own gain, both politically and financially. This, there's
Well,
some truth there.
I'll give you one. You know, I hosted the 10-year anniversary camp.
Yeah.
And it was the biggest Modern East event since Remy's passed in the United States, in North America. I had 10 instructors on the bill. A couple had to. Kelly got in a motorcycle accident a week before it, couldn't make it out. Okay. I had a bunch of instructors in here, took care of their hotels, took care of the meals, put $1,000 in everybody's pocket. Okay. Had other guest instructors fly out and do stuff, took care of stuff with them as well. Everyone was willing to do things when my wallet was open. Once my wallet was closed, no one was interested in reciprocating. I mentioned it. I had Dan Anderson reach out to the IMF at the time, and then the word I got back was they weren't interested.
Yeah, the reciprocation is an issue in this community. I mean,
I cannot tell you how many times people show up when my wallet opens up. Once it shuts, you hear crickets. And I have been a big, big advocate for FMA.
Okay? Oh yeah, no.
Okay.
No,
now you and Paulo have taken over that role because I've backed away from it. And unfortunately,
what's going on here? Let me just see here. His deathbed. He knew the state his art was in at the time, and it would happen in the future. This is why he had, I mean, of all people to select to come by his deathbed, obviously, Guru wrote, wow, it was obviously special.
Yeah. Well, even,
your mic is low, I guess, but it seems fine to me.
Well, I got closer to the. I don't have. I'm at my school, so I don't have a microphone near me. It's all in the camera up there. I mean, I remember when I went to that when people were trying to keep me away from seeing Remy. And I'm like, dude, I was with him when he got diagnosed, and people understood. One of Remy's attorney was the one that apologized for all the stuff afterwards.
100%, Jim.
Realizing how much, stuff was going on. But I mean, at the end of the day, you know what? We are so much stronger together. Okay. And you've seen it firsthand that I'm willing to help people.
Oh yeah, no, I speak on that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Rocky has taught seminars in my school throughout the years. Not one, multiple seminars throughout the years. I've had Roderick Boulis at my school. I've had Marlena Hafano at my school. Nene Tortal, Bobby Tabuada a whole bunch of times. And the list goes on. And right now, I need to focus on making sure that my art that I put so much time and effort into goes forward. I will help others when I can, but I'm not going out of my way to help anybody anymore. I have to take care of my, if my house is on fire, I'm not putting out the neighbors. I'm taking care of mine first. And when I'm done with it, I'll help them with theirs.
Gotcha.
And, I hate to sound that way, but I mean, that's why, I mean, personally, I think if our organization stops tomorrow, Modern East in the States will die.
And obviously, you know this answer better than me. I just, when I look at Modern East, and again, not to reiterate, I just see other organizations and systems that are far more jeopardy of like dying if they don't get more enrollment or a farm team, wherever you want to elicit as far as getting more folks in there. I don't know, like, again, LeMaco is going to 2 decades from now, I think LeMaco is going to be, I don't know, I'd be shocked if it's still.
You are going to see these art continue, but not by name. You are going to see them being absorbed as the stick program in a martial arts school. That's what's going to happen.
With LeMaco, I don't even know that. I got to be honest with you. When I look at the teachers that are active now, globally, And that I don't know. I don't know. I don't
Well,
know.
I don't. Okay, so listen, I think all of FMA is in jeopardy because I look at other. I mean,
As a whole, you're saying FMA as a whole is in jeopardy?
oh yeah. Oh, listen. I think people believe that certain arts are in better condition than they actually are. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Who's going to take over for Carlito Bonchon?
Well, are you looking at it for Cabales as a whole or
No. I'm
for
just going
Ken?
to say, I'm going to use him. Who's taking over for Carlito?
I couldn't tell you.
Who's taking over for Darren?
His son.
Maybe. Who's taking over for Roger?
That's a great. Roger has some younger. I mean, but they're kind of Roger's age. Good. I don't know.
Who's taking over for Arnold, Peachy, and
Arnold has folks that.
Christopher?
No, Arnold's in good shape.
Okay, but okay, let's go back to Arnold because I like Arnold. How big is the group?
It's pretty big. The Manila group, pretty big.
Yeah. What do you mean big?
I mean, as far as KI,
you mean the Sunday big. Group in the park?
It's pretty big, but I think
okay, here we go. I've been to that group a bunch of times.
Huh?
I've been there a bunch of times. I've never seen more than 10 people.
No, look at the recent pictures. They got more than 10 now. They got more than 10.
Okay, what? Maybe 20, 30?
It's growing.
That's not good. That's not. No, do they have satellite programs? No, but do they have satellite programs?
Yes. Kiro has the most reps throughout the world.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's
don't argue to me about KI.
Well, no, I'm just saying, I'm just
I'm just kidding.
No, but I'm just okay, so I think is in a really good shape, at least in Europe, Kombatan.
You would know better than me.
Kombatan's in really good shape in Europe. But Maria wants to bring Arnold over.
Yeah,
But I look at, to me, to have a gene pool worth talking about, you need 300 to 500 people.
Well, then, based on that, FMA is definitely in trouble.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean, I'm talking in a
system. Yeah, but that's what you're using as a baseline or a form. I mean,
plus, if they don't have 300, okay, and this is it. If you don't have 300 to 500 people, what kind of impact can you have? Look at Bikini Tertia. They've got a secure future.
Yeah, I don't put Bikini Tertia under. Oh my God.
No. But they got numbers. Now, granted, they're not together, but they are.
Arnis has more than
Where?
All right, I'm just telling you. Okay, slow down.
Okay. I want you to prove me wrong. I want it. You know what? You have no idea how badly I want to be wrong.
Okay, all right. GM Renee is saying that Arnis has, throughout the world, has the most practitioners. Is he wrong?
Well, if we're talking about people who practice the art versus the sport, because I don't consider the sport the art.
Okay, well, he didn't separate that. He just says the most practitioners.
Here's the question: how many people are using the name versus actually doing the art? Because I see a whole bunch of because I see people doing Ernesto's program, Ernesto, and calling it modern, and it's not.
Okay, all right. Okay, let me back up.
Okay,
is it possible that he is correct, whether it's sport, art, that has the most practitioners?
I'm going to base this on U.S.
No.
I'm just going to talk about this. If we're talking about modernist practitioners in the U.S., I think we are not in first place.
Who would you say is if U.S. just U.S. alone?
If we're talking stick-based systems, weapon-based systems, I think Dulce Powers is bigger than I think
in the U.S.
Yeah, it's huge.
I would say on the West Coast. PTK.
Well, I would say Dulce Powers, then PTK.
And Asano Blend's probably the.
I don't consider it FMA.
Ensemble blend.
No. It's the stick program for what he does.
How can you say?
I'm bored with it.
Okay, I gotta hear this.
I'm very bored with it because I see baseline material that they do, and then a lot of their guys go into specific fields of expertise. So they teach a basic stick program, but it's never done as a standalone program. It's done as an adjunct to what's going on. So tell me where there's an Inosanto blend school that's not, an Inosanto weapon blend school versus all the Jeet Kune Do schools offering one weapon class a week. Because I do look at their schedules.
Oh, jeez. Well, first, I look at Ken Nelson. He has a very active FMA program. There's some out there that have a very active.
Is he even Jeet Kune Do anymore?
That I couldn't answer. I had an interview. I think he mentioned. I think so.
Oh, he's certified. He's certifiable. No,
I know he's certified, but I still think he's actively teaching it. Ron Kozakowski teaches actively Inosanto blend and PTK. They're out there.
Is it a school dedicated to Inosanto blend?
There are some out there. Yes.
But they're not doing Jeet Kune Do. They're just doing Inosanto blend. FMA.
That I'm not sure.
Okay, it's just,
you might have me there.
Yeah. See that? So we go back to, okay, I don't look at Inosanto blend being a standalone program.
But you have to understand something. When I came through the ranks of Inosanto blend, it was kept separate from JKD. In other words, when I was going through the ranks, I was under the Vunak lineage. We did our JKD.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. It was in the late 90s when he was peaking. Okay.
Oh, I have it. One of my black belts was a Vunak representative too. So I'm very familiar with the program.
Yeah. So we did their straight blast. Yep. so we did our JKD. Okay. Conceptual. Okay. Chun Fan. Then the next class was pure Inosanto blend curriculum.
Okay.
So they were separate.
This goes back to what I say before, and this goes back to the business sessions we've done before.
Okay.
Could you run a school on Inosanto JKD or Inosanto blend Filipino martial arts?
Could you?
Could you run a full? Yeah. Could it be a viable business without teaching Jeet Kune Do to do the Inosanto Kali, and people come to it because it offers everything you need?
Yes, they could. They could exactly do what you're doing with the kids. Absolutely. Yes.
So there's punching, kicking, the whole 9 yards.
Inosanto blend, the whole Pontucan Doom. Where do you think Pontucan Doom came from? It came from the Inosanto blend.
I see it more. I don't see it being separated from the JKD trapping and all that other stuff.
Orbited. Oh, it is. It is. Oh my gosh. Somebody. Oh my gosh. Somebody please help me. Datu, I'm pleading to you. You can take the Inosanto blend.
The Inosanto blend Kali program.
There are 12 areas in the Inosanto blend. Okay. There's even healing. There's flexible.
And okay.
Spotty Adaga.
Okay.
Punching.
Okay.
Panjakman, rapid fire, low line kicking.
Okay.
Sword, doble espada.
Okay.
Knife.
Okay.
Stick.
Mm-hmm.
Whole Dumag.
Okay.
Staff.
I'm not worried about the weapon portion. I'm worrying like an art like Balintawak. Oh, here's another thing. Balintawak. You don't.
That's not a complete.
No. Okay. Here's what I'll say. There's a difference between being complete in the topic we're taught of the art, the study of that art.
Okay.
But it is a standalone program that'll teach you everything you need. Enough of everything that you need. Like
Balintawak?
And that's why I don't think of Balintawak school. As I love my Balintawak is taught. Okay, so Iaido is often taught with either Kendo or Aikido, but it's not. You won't find Iaido schools.
Okay.
Okay. So I have not seen an Inosanto blend FMA school. I've always seen my eyes. I'm not saying they're not out there, but
Mark Makita.
I know.
He's Anasano blend.
I need to know a little more about him before I make my decision on him. No, because he's a guy I've always heard about. But
No. It's just funny the way you put it. No, Mark Makita, very Anasano blend background. Him and Burton back in the day were buddies.
Oh no, I know. He's got the pedigree.
But it's Anasano blend. I mean, I'm not saying he hasn't done other arts or experience or taken other FMA styles and played with them.
I'll give you an example. So we'll take that off for a minute. But Tim, don't confuse your ability to run a business with the visibility of modern Arnis and the validity of standalone school with a complete system. The thing here is this: if the arts are going to continue, we need to get them in front of the masses. We need a bigger gene.
I don't disagree with you there.
So if you cannot get these into commercial schools by themselves, I think there's a big challenge about moving them forward. So I would see the arts in my mind that are on the chopping block. Would be Serrata. Because I also look at the gene pool. There's not much Serrata outside of California.
And you're absolutely correct in that, because Nick Merchant, my Piper student, who's an active Serrata guy, I think he is the only one. No, Anthony and Nick, I think, are the only ones in New York. One of Anthony's students, Nathan, Connecticut. So in general, much to your point, not much of a showing on the East Coast. I can't speak on Florida or the southern states, but as far as Northeast is concerned, few and far between.
I see a lot of people using the lock and block in what they do, but they're not Serrata. I see a lot of people who do whatever the Pikiti, what it's called when you go 1, 2, 3 pop, 1, 2, 3 pop. I see a lot of people adapting bits and pieces. But the thing here is, like, I'm really concerned for the FMA industry as a whole, because at least in the United States,
we're done with modern Nice and we are PTK now. Leadership can say,
I look at arts like
what? That's all. Just 100%. That's all.
But like Bullet Walk, you could have and look what Rocky wrote too. So there you go.
It's not. Yeah, it's definitely not a standalone.
A Balintawak school is not going to be able to exist by itself as a full-time entity.
I agree. I have no objection to that. I totally agree with you.
And listen, just because 1 or 2 people can do something doesn't mean that proves the point. That's the exception, not the norm. So you look at Serrata, you look at Bahalana, you look at the Anion system.
Yeah.
You look at a lot of these Lightning Scientific. You look at a lot of these styles. If they cannot, you have one instructor in Alaska. Okay.
Here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to throw you a bunch of quick questions before we're on here all night. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to give you name of system. You give me, in your opinion, survivability, ultimate decline in 2 decades from now. Okay.
2 decades. Okay.
All right.
People are gonna hate me.
It's all opinion. I'll take the flack. Okay.
They'll reach out to me, so it's okay.
All right. Multi-Stockton.
I think it'll be a community group, but I think as a global thing, it's not going to survive.
It's not good. I totally agree with you. It won't be global, but they do have a kids program, and I think, as far as that media community,
I think they have the potential of getting a few people to keep it as a individual school or 2 or program. Actually, it's more of a rec center or backyard stuff. I don't see it growing beyond that.
Okay, no, I'm with you on that. Okay, let's go. Her own system. Overall, just her own system overall, whether it's Kurt McCune or it's Mike, just overall.
Unless something changes drastically, I see it's another art that is fated to fade away in 2 decades.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you there. I mean, you got Kirk McCune doing his best to pump it. Harley Elmore in his school in Texas is kind of there. Mike
and Harley, he's so many styles underneath one roof.
Yeah.
Here's where I can see where some of these might change. if they're mated with another program, so let's say you took a boxing Panatukan style program with any of these, I think they'll have the potential of
but I'm with you on the first two. I agree with you. Okay. I'm not going to say Lameko because I already gave my opinion on that. Yeah, in 2 decades. And I hate to even say that because I love Lameko. I think as far as attribute development, I don't see another system that.
I still want to be wrong on this.
I know. I agree. I wish David Gold would. What do you? Anyhow, okay. Illustratum as a whole. So you got Ricketts, you got Dig, you got Kiro. If Yuli removes the Bahasabu, you would have his version. You got Ray Galong. If he removed the, we'll drop that because I'm not sure what he's doing. I haven't been in touch with him as of late. And then you have, who am I missing? Crap. Oh, Edgar, which is a Mego. So let's go. Let's stick with Ricketts and Kiro. So. KI.
I don't know enough about what Ricketts is doing, so I can't factor him in.
I'm really trying to get him website. I'm really pushing him to
with excluding his involvement.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to say that Kiro, once Arnold is no longer teaching, is going to go down the tubes. You'll probably have it a small regional thing. He's holding Kiro together.
I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think if he were to one day just quit, not do it, or
pass,
whatever happens, yeah, I think it would. I think the Manila group would take an absolute hit, and yeah, I can't disagree with you there. Yeah. Okay. Next, we already kind of talked about Bikini. Let's Dose Paris.
I think it's going to be around longer. I think it has a lot more legs than some of the other arts.
Why? Okay, you might know something I don't on this. Well, why do you feel that way?
So, one, they've got it as a machine in the Philippines, in Cebu. You got Dulce Par's you have Dulce Par's headquarters.
Okay.
It is huge in Jersey.
Alrighty.
I mean, I was just down in when I went to visit Dr. G for his 60th anniversary of martial arts, I bumped into Kick Connection. Okay, it's a Dulce Par's Taekwondo school. It's the U.S. director of WECAF right now. And I happen to know his sister, Golden Dragons, in the same town. So there's 2 schools in Maryland. There's everywhere I go, I bump into Dulce Paras. And with WECAF, it has that push of WECAF to help promoting it. I mean, there's a bunch of Dulce Paras schools in Europe.
Okay.
Dulce Paras is truly a global art. I think it was number 2 when Remy was around.
I agree with that.
I think it's number 1 now.
No, Europe. I mean, it's even in Mexico. One of my Piper guys down there is heading Mexico Dulce Paras. So yeah, agreed. The Anai system.
Done.
Yeah, no argument. Kopitan.
I think it has longevity. I think it'll be more of a European thing.
Okay.
I don't know what Shelley Millsbog's done in the States here to and because it's
try to get him on, kind of reclusive.
The biggest person in his stable is June, and June is setting himself up for retirement. So he's got multiple things in his wheelhouse. And I think he's going to push whatever is the most beneficial at the time while still training Balintuak, Kombatan, and Kiro.
Okay.
But, I mean, June's doing a lot in Europe right now. But I think he's thinking about when he retires. But, I mean, he's the biggest name there. But you're going to ask another art, which is going to affect June's outcome. Because you're going to say, what do I think about Balintuak? And I'm going to say, once Bobby goes, it'll be a shit show. They're going to go through what I did with Modern Arnis. He doesn't want to have a successor. He wants an advisor. That'll be a shitstorm. And I don't think Nick Elazar has the presence, He's promoted 13 people to grandmasters, which I don't get what that's all about. Attilio is, when I talk to the West Coasters, just saying he's more Dos Pars than anything else. Bobby is the torchbearer, the ambassador of the art right now. But once he stops teaching, I mean, listen, Ted was the designated successor.
Kakoi, who's the successor?
Ted Buot for Balinswalk.
Okay.
But he had no intention on spreading the art.
Okay.
Anton thought he was going to get bored in the States and move back and take over the system. But he doesn't have that scope. That he didn't have the gene pool to keep it going. So Bobby has done a phenomenal job of promoting that. But I think a lot of these guys, Bobby included, benefit from Remy's passing. I don't think they took advantage of it. When I announced that Remy passed away, Bobby was the first one to reach out to me and said, "You need my help, I got you." Okay? I love the man. But if Remy was still around, a lot of these people would not have gotten those same opportunities because he was on the Black Belt magazine, all that. He was the guy who ran it for FMA.
No, he was a monster. I mean, as far as, no argument. Here's one for you. La Nada Eskrima.
It's practically dead right now.
Yeah.
You mean Moran?
I think it's George Bush is dead. Peter Friedman is really in New Hampshire. Is really the only one that.
Well, I thought he's Brewster Arnis. Peter Friedman was Brewster Arnis.
Both. Both.
Peter's got. Listen, I love Peter.
Yeah.
But he's got a handful of students.
No, he's up there. But much to agree with you. That's good. Unfortunately, phase out. Sadly. But it'll be another one, unfortunately. Abinir Khalis.
I barely even knew of its existence.
How could you say that?
Because he's not in the Philippines. Isn't he over in China or something?
Kidding. I feel very strong Manila presence. I tried to get it going in the U.S. with a couple of other reps. Nothing became of it. I got frustrated. But I have respect for Bong Avenir. I still kept with it and all that. But tough play. Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to get
he's going through the list.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I should know this by now. Go figure, huh? Anasana blend.
That's going to be dependent on whether Jeet Kune Do survives losing Dan as the leader.
I don't know if the JKD is going to have that much of an impact.
No. I just don't know. Here's the thing. When Inosanto, I'm going to say when he passes. I'm not going to say when he retires. I don't see him ever retiring.
Fair enough.
Okay. He's going to be teaching. He's going to be in this friggin' hospice, and people are going to be coming. He's going to be teaching techniques from the bed. Here, take that to that. Okay. I saw. Okay. When it came to the scope and the presence of modern Arnis, Remy had no freaking equal.
Yeah.
And it fell apart when he died. And the reason why there wasn't dedicated schools, that's what I'm going to go with. Okay. There were no dedicated schools worth talking about. Okay. I was the exception, not the norm. That's why it crashed. Inosanto, he does have dedicated schools, but I don't know how strong those schools are.
Dedicated schools and upper echelon of guys. I see that going, at least in the States.
Maybe 30 years.
I like if you were to ask me how many decades, I think it's going to. I think a couple. I don't know. That's a tough one because of his passing and all that. But I think they will still have some traction and momentum, comparatively speaking to some of the others that we brought up. Okay, all right, Sayok. What do you think?
Oh, it started dying once Chris died.
definitely some fractures, some discontent. A lot of people have left.
So Tom is he's doing contract work, has had a contract work for a long time. So I don't see him promoting the art as opposed to training operators, which is a whole different thing. You know,
it's funny. One of my original students, my first student I graduated, it's funny. She got into SEAC when I was had one leg out the door. She just left them a couple of years ago, and I'm not going to say her name or why, but basically, not really a well-running ship is kind of what I kind of,
and the thing here too is the sad thing is that I don't think you will remember Bobby Tabuada, Remy Pracis, Anchon Bacon, Leo Heron, Angel Cabales. You will. I mean, those are just Kakoy, Mamoy, Kenyates, the Saavedra brothers. These are names that will stay.
I still can't get anybody about them Saavedra brothers. I would love to cover them.
I don't think Psyops are. I think a lot of these styles, and I think Chris is one of them. I don't think people are going to remember them. Because
that's a good question. That I can't answer, but I think
you're allowed to tell the story.
I mean, it's fragmented, and they maybe improve upon what's currently going on. I mean, I don't know.
And I'll say the same thing for Atienza Kali.
I was just gonna. That's my next one.
Once they're done, I'm surprised they survived the stabbing, but once they are done,
yeah,
their group is done.
There's definitely a connectivity there. When SEAC went public in the early 2000s, Atienza went to the first Sama in 2002, and I went with them, and all of a sudden they adopted basically the SEAC framework of Samas, the rigs, yada yada. So it could affect. It could, yeah. I don't know. I've been since removed, so I can't speak on that for sure, but I could see that having an effect on them. Yeah, for sure. Who else? FCS. Radio Naldo.
That's done when Ray's done.
He's got reps all over. And you know the thing about Ray I noticed? His reps are younger. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in Europe. I mean, I don't know in other words, his European reps. I don't know if they have younger folks there, but I don't know.
Once again,
here's one for you. I think you agree. Lagusa Villabril system. Yeah, I don't. Matter of fact, who's doing Latosa? Besides the Italian reps, who's doing? And they are cocky. Oh my!
Listen, Paulo.
I know I've been missing a bunch of comments here. Sorry, guys.
Okay, does Ray have a bunch of reps?
People don't know the Atienza stabbing incident. Yeah, actually, a lot of folks do, Paulo. It's one of those things that people reference for whatnot, but yeah, you'd be surprised. People have no idea how big it's massive. Yeah, FCS. Yeah, I totally agree, Paulo. And he's got younger reps. They're not old.
He might have a lot of reps, but how many students? I mean, I always go back to the same thing. What's the gene pool? Having a
gene pool.
No, but the thing is, if you have a bunch of reps and they're not producing people, what?
I think they're producing because it's a very formatted curriculum.
I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see much presence. I see Ray.
You say what?
I see Ray. I see Pipo. And I see now Mike, who's just hopped on board recently.
Yeah, it's big. It's big. It's it is. They're quietly big. You know what I mean? But now, does that mean they're gonna last 3 more decades? I don't have the answer to.
I see it will last as long as Ray's around.
Yeah, it definitely takes. Unless oh gosh, I'm just want to make sure I didn't miss any comments. Sorry, guys.
I'm saying the same thing about my own group, my own organization, my own art. So I'm not saying anything that I'm not saying about us.
Here's something we should watch. Are you familiar with what he's referencing there?
No, but let me.
I think guys even know what Google is.
No, I can't even pull this stuff up.
Sayek is, oh my God, Sayek is done. Paulo saying Sayek is done.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, we knew that.
I didn't. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't even see what. Okay.
Anthony had an interesting
your
comment.
art.
How many guys? All right, I missed a bunch of comments. Sorry, guys. How many guys even know of all what Dan? Great question, Tony. Burton, but then Burton left. So a couple, Joel, and there's another guy besides Joel who was really there. But yeah, Joel obviously being number one. Rick Fay, I think his name's got to be mentioned. But much to your point, yeah, 3 or 4, yeah, maybe.
Listen, if any art, I don't care how many. Okay, I'm going to use modern as the example here.
Okay.
We've seen a bunch of promotions the last 2 years in Modern East to people of 7th, 8th, and Grandmaster titles.
And that has bothered you.
They haven't been producing black belts in the art. Most of them have not produced black belts in the art. So it's great.
And your issue is instead of promotion.
It's great to promote people.
Yeah.
But why? If they're not producing people, it's not helping our gene pool. If I promote you, okay, let's say you're a level 1 guru and you just have 2 guys and I promote you to a level 5 guru, how does that help the art if you're not producing people?
It helps me, but it doesn't help the art. Right. Let me see here. Oh, crap, money. Why is this thing not moving?
And, once again, I want to be wrong.
I'm just trying to make sure I'm missing comments here. I didn't realize they were flooding in so much when I was grilling you on the different systems that might die. Here we go. Because I think any systems I didn't think of that you weren't, that you think
I don't want to pick on people that I like.
It's me.
Rafi Pambuan.
Okay, there we go. Bayat. What about Bayat?
I'll tell you all three. Ralphie Pambuan, Aban Bayat, Ricky Lazo. All 3 of those are gone when they're gone. And I'm talking gone like any consequence worth, any impact worth mentioning. I don't care, you were interviewing somebody and I talked about, I said there's not many combatant schools on the East Coast, and then the person you were, well, there's a couple here. I mean, but it's not worth mentioning. They're mostly, when you look at the percentage of East Coast combatant schools versus West Coast combatant schools, it's significant. The problem here is people reach for the exception and try to make it the rule.
Yeah.
Why should I practice this one technique? Well, it worked for me once. Out of how many tries? How many times have you given that opportunity?
This is where, you know what? I mean, you can't argue this. I mean, I'd rather have my, in other words, that, hey, I mean, basically what GM Bray is saying, that if it dies when I die, at least I did with integrity and all that. You can't argue that, man.
And here's the thing. My legacy is that I've shaped and changed the lives in a positive way for many young kids who've gone off to college and stuff. And I constantly bump into people that haven't seen their kids or their families in years, and they constantly thank me for what I've done for them. So my personal legacy is taken care of. If it all stops tomorrow, it doesn't matter. I know what I've done and I've helped people. The thing here is that, and I wish I could have found somewhere I've got the will. I read the will, and it talks about Remy's lifelong mission. Since I was 19, this became my thing. And it was Remy's thing first, and now it's my thing.
Okay. I just want to see if this question's for us.
Okay.
Apollo, was this question for us or was it for
I think it
GM
was
Ray?
for
For
Ray.
GM Ray? Okay. Thought so as well. Okay.
But yeah,
People don't hate on Tim for speaking what is up. Represent so many dudes dragging social media. That was for Okay. Okay. All right. I can't think of any other systems of magnitude. Obviously, there's going to be a bunch out there that's going to fall. I think. Yeah, Rick Fay for sure. Tony, I agree. It's
well, I
probably
think
one of
I think
those.
you just talked about it right there. How many systems out there really have any magnitude? We
I
talked
think
about
there's just. I think there's Dulce Paris. I think FCS.
I mean,
Oh, what do you mean? I'm sorry.
well, I mean, I'd have to see to be.
You need to see the evidence.
I do
Oh, I
because I
know.
think a lot of times people.
I just think it's funny. I know. No harm, no foul.
Well, okay. Well, we talk about the. I got in an argument. Well, I didn't get an argument. Someone didn't like what I said because we talked about Riddell DeGuck's organization over here. There's 20 people in the organization. I mean, that's not worth talking. I don't want to talk about that. This guy's supposed to be the U.S. director, trying to get more schools involved. When someone's school dwarfs the amount of U.S. members, when one school dwarfs, I go, I'm not going to talk about the members of my organization. I got 80 active members doing it in my school for Arnis alone. Your whole organization is my beginner's class. So when we talk about stuff, I mean, I think a lot of times people I mean, I was over at Ray Galan's for a tournament. He had a Babacan tournament. I got my medal here too. I still got the flyer and stuff like that. And I was talking to schools over there, and they're like, "Well, Tim, we're all talking how's the numbers?" I go, "It's summer. It's a little light." That time, I said I had 80 people. 80. We're lucky to get 8 people. And there was a whole bunch of clubs there with about 6 to 8 people.
Okay.
And I'm like, now if they were all the same art, that would be great because then they all add up. That wasn't the case. It wasn't the case at all.
So maybe, I don't know, now that we identified a bunch of these systems, I'm starting to see your opinion a little more as far as FMA overall future as a whole.
I see so many. Okay, look, so here's the
It's
problem.
not a pleasant look.
No, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has something good going for them, but let's think about this. Let me use the paradigm here.
Okay.
They have the gene pool, so I'm not worried about them continuing. But let's think about this here. How many people go into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu just to get the ground element, teach the ground element in their program, but don't actively promote BJJ?
Oh, I think I would bet it's a high percentage. Yeah.
So how many people do that with FMA?
I don't think as much as Brazilian BJJ.
FMA was like the fad at one time. And when it came when it came to weapons,
well, maybe some years ago that happened. I'm saying status quo.
When it's taught to weapons being taught in the class, number 1 was the bow.
Yeah.
Number 2 was they said the Eskrima. I was trying to be crazy.
Well, what time frame are you talking about? Are you talking about like the 80s?
Pre-COVID, just before COVID.
Before COVID.
And here's the thing is, I belong to martial art business associations, and they would do these surveys. It's very now. Granted, it may only be angles of attack, a Sinwali or 2, and maybe a couple disarms. But a lot of people went to people like Remy to just fill in some blanks, which is great because it put money in his pocket to help him continue with what he was doing and give people like me lessons who are serious about it. But unfortunately, when the bulk of the people are doing that, once the top guy's gone and there's no one else to take that spot, it's almost inevitable that the systems will become absorbed without getting credit. I've had people come to me and I've identified Inasano Blend JKD because people didn't know what they were doing. Here's a stick program I do. Show me what you're doing. Oh, that's Inasano. Really? I didn't know that because their teacher just saw a stick program. Now, I don't know what the quantity was. I don't know what this is. What do you think it is? Oh, that's...
Yeah, they could have picked up the 9 DVD set from the Asano blend and, you know what I mean?
Yeah, or the Ron Balicki series.
Oh, the Ron Blicky.
That's a really good series, by the way. The one, yeah, he's got a great series. I like Ron a lot.
Amelia Field.
So here we
has
go.
A long shot. Has a long shot at immortality. So then think about it. One famous YouTuber, Logan Paul. Yeah, guy just jumps in, starts throwing some hands, and then gets a match with Spider. One can take some obscure FMA system and immediately infuse it longevity to the tune of generations. Yeah, I mean anything's possible, right? We were gods in the '80s. The SEALs loved our knife and edge weapons. In the '80s, yeah, FMA. I don't know. The golden age. I don't know.
So they realized there was holes in the material.
Yeah. Till the SEALs like, I don't know.
I keep flashing back to videos of a bikini guy who tactical showing the Filipinos how to do stuff, and all they did was bang them. But
oh boy. Hey, I gotta.
I'll slap the weapon away. No, I'll step back and shoot you. Okay.
I'll just step back and put 3 rounds in you.
So, listen, I want to be wrong.
Yeah,
I really do.
I know.
But I think at the end of the day,
yeah, you're not very optimistic.
No, because I don't think the FMA world has a sense of scale. Like, okay, so I understand hanging out with like Kick Connection because it's a Taekwondo school and Filipino martial arts. They understand percentages.
Okay.
They'll know. I mean, okay, so Apollo Ladra, he moved to Florida. Before he moved to Florida, there was this perception that he had this huge FMA cadre.
Okay.
He had a huge Taekwondo and fitness school, 400 cardio members, like 200 or 300 Taekwondo members. How many FMA members do you think he had?
I know it was nowhere in the tune of that, and I know the majority of the school was focused on Taekwondo, and I couldn't tell you how many exactly PTK practitioners he had.
Oh no, this is pre-PTK.
Pre-T. So what was he doing
he was hopping around. He was with the Sox for a short period of time. Actually, he probably just hooked up with he had just hooked up.
I had him for the interview, and he did mention okay.
So he had about 20 students.
20?
20.
Okay.
Now, doesn't even show up on the radar compared to everything else. Now he learned how to do things differently and apply those.
Oh, I mean, look at him now. There's infusion into the Taekwondo schools.
Right. So because of his Taekwondo background, he was able, and you know what? God bless him. And hopefully we'll get some people in a better situation.
Was that Sayak, your previous story that you referenced?
What story was that?
The guy getting that was, I guess, made to appear to be a fool in the Philippines. It was you said it was a PTK guy. I guess Paul was asking if it was Sayak.
That's not a PTK guy. TW. Okay. He knows TW. He knows TW.
TW?
Yeah, you know TW.
Okay. Oh.
Really? Come on. Really?
Gotcha. I interviewed him too. Okay. Hey man. TW. I got a jet, man. We're going on 3 hours, man.
Yeah. So hopefully that didn't. Yeah. Well, we went down a whole bunch of other things.
No, I thought it was fantastic. It just we got down a couple of rabbit holes that was really good stuff, but ultimately you did cover the decades, and
Listen, this last
one time
I so want to be wrong, guys. I want everyone to prove me wrong that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Hey,
or if they do it just to spite me, then it is good.
I was modernist and joined the Marines. But hey, let's stay in touch because I have a couple of things I got to run by you.
Yeah, I'm home the next 2 weeks.
You are. I got
Back
it.
on the road.
Yeah, there's something. Okay, there's something. Are you around for a phone call, perhaps tomorrow or Thursday?
I am free. Uh, I'm free in between 1
Okay.
and 5. Actually, probably 2 and 5. 2 to 5.
Is that both days?
What tomorrow and 1?
And Thursday?
Yeah. And
2 and 5?
that other 2 to 5. That other project where we got to talk to that person, he has international guests for the next week and a half.
All right, no worries. I got something else to throw by you.
Okay.
So I want to just see what your thoughts are.
Okay, providing you don't think I'm a snob because I don't like any arts.
No. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. So no. Yeah.
So when it comes to JKD Kali.
Oh yeah. You gotta keep the and you can't argue about KI. You're in no place to talk about KI. So
once again,
talk about KI all you want.
I didn't talk about the quality because every time I'm in the Philippines, I go visit Arnold. So I do like hanging out with the Kiro guys. They're always nice.
You're getting the best KI there.
Yeah. I was going to say, isn't it the all? Then I go, okay, no, I get you.
They're very good at what they do.
They're very good at what they do.
There's absolutely no argument on that. They are very good at what they do.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but I think, So modern Arnis is cool. There we go. Get back to the topic.
Yes, and if you talk about KI, man, you better have some photos there to post with the great one. Even though it was just a photo, you maybe train with them 5 minutes.
Who's the great one again?
5 minutes, you getting clonked on the head.
Who's the great one again? Oh, Paulo and I got to argue about old school fighters versus the new day fighters.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
I'll let you guys have that one out. And
that's supposed to be Friday, I think.
You got guys like Burton, who's not really KI, even though he spent tons of hours with the man.
Okay.
Sparring on him. But that's how it goes.
Okay.
So, all right, enough of me. I'm getting punchy.
That's what I was looking for.
Okay. I will I'll be in touch. All right. Thank you so much. Hey, this is a great talk. Thank you.
You say that now, then tomorrow, like, Tim, why the hell did you keep me up so late?
No, I lost track. But all right, my man, you take care.
We'll talk to you later, my friend.
Yes, thank you again. Ooh, and I absolutely lost track of time there. Next. I'm going to try to squeeze somebody possibly Thursday, and that somebody, I have no idea. And then this weekend's off to Chad Bailey's camp. Yeah, but I should know who's coming on next soon. I hope I should know that. At any rate, those who watched and jumped in, I appreciate it. Thank you. It definitely went long. That was not the intention, but go down a couple rabbit holes, and that's how it goes. But at any rate, if you haven't already, please subscribe to FMA Discussion. All of our channel money goes to charity. And if you haven't already considered it, quick bits. Send a video 2 to 5 minutes long. Enclose a picture so we can put it in for the thumbnail gallery, and people get to see your stuff. You never know. People might like it. Could get a student out of it. And so forth. And Raymond Floor, truth. Yeah. I'm going to assume your part of the truth is my last comments on a group that does what they do very well. I'm going to assume that is what you're referencing. But at any rate, and you're going to lose that battle one, Tim. That's going to be a fun battle. It'll be a fly on the wall for that one. All right, folks. Thank you, and I will hopefully see you all soon.